Hello and welcome to the B&B Show. My name is Brandon Kane. The guy here to my left, that is Seahawks Brendan Nelson coming back you here another week here as the season starting up. We had a nice preseason tie game. We're going to look to try to preview a little bit of this upcoming matchup against the Kansas City Chiefs, where Brendan was able to confirm with me right before we went live that indeed we do got our starters out there, at least getting a little bit of a cup of coffee in this football game. But Brendan, how are you doing, man? It's good to see you in the house.
I'm doing good. I'm ready to get this show on the road. I'm ready for these games to start mattering, but we're not there yet.
Definitely a bit of the antsiness factor kicks in 3 weeks into camp. And as you're just sort of going, man, you feel pretty good about the team, but you're just not quite sure where it's going to be. And it's like, come on, let's get to the start of this thing. Let's kick this thing going through. And we had, I think, overall for being a tie, a pretty successful week last week. But the place that I really wanted to start with talking to you about last week that stands out to me throughout this whole training camp is kind of maybe the main story that rises. There's a couple things here, the second year of McDonald and all that other stuff. But I think that we've had a lot of really good rookie classes come through here, Brendan, in recent years, even if you go back 15 years or whatnot, and who have been able to give you impact and give you really quick impact. I feel like there's a real chance here, though, with this rookie class that we've brought in, that we have a group that is maybe going to provide as much, if not more, impact in that way this upcoming season than anything that we have seen recently. Am I out too far off on my branch on this one?
Well, I think it's hard to top having both your offensive tackles that start basically the whole season be rookies from a couple years ago. Like that was, I believe, the first time in NFL history that happened. Where you had a team actually start the season with two rookies at both tackle spots. So I don't think you're topping that because you also had Woolen that year. He led the league in picks almost. Kobe Bryant leading the league in forced fumbles. That was a special year. I don't think you're going to top that. But short of that, this one is looking pretty sharp. I'm kind of with you there because it's become clear that there is a plan for this team to have Nick Emenwari on the field at all times. He might play 5 different positions this year. It might be like, remember Julian Peterson? That guy played every position on the field. He might be like that. He might end up being like that. And he's about as big as that guy.
Yes, he is.
Yeah. So it's not even that ridiculous to suggest. There's obviously the Horton stuff where I think he's going to be the number 3 receiver at this point. Maybe we need one more preseason game to confirm it, but all the momentum's on his side. I don't need to say anything about Zabel. He's going to start, so obviously there's going to be an impact there. But yeah, I would stack this rookie class up against previous rookie classes, except for 2022, and feel pretty good about it. This does harken back to those early 2010s rookie classes. You know, where you would pull an Earl Thomas, you would pull a Russell Okung, you would pull
Golden Tate.
Even, I'm sorry?
Golden Tate.
Yeah, Golden Tate. And Golden Tate wasn't that much as a rookie, but it's definitely getting there. And I wasn't sure about this draft class for a while, but it does seem like we're going to see some real early impact from this group, and that's nice. What I would say is that I think it's safe to conclude after watching that, and I know it's just one preseason game. Gray Zabel doesn't look like he's suffering at all for going from the competition from North Dakota State to the NFL. It doesn't seem like he's physically overwhelmed. So that's a really good sign. So I'm a little more optimistic there than I was before. Not to say that I was pessimistic before, but I'm feeling good about that. And overall, it does seem like we're getting the best case scenario out of a lot of these guys.
It does. Who do you think has been the most surprising one of the bunch?
Well, I feel like it kind of has to be Horton because with him falling so far in the draft, the only reason why that guy should fall that far in the draft is because he's injured so badly he's not going to be able to do anything as a rookie. Like that was a guy who could have been, I think, a second-round pick if healthy. So for him to fall to the 5th, they're basically saying his leg is hanging off of his body. So the fact that he looks like he's going to be ready to go week 1 at basically 100% speed is pretty unexpected. And maybe it reflects some sort of just problem in the scouting process where people thought he was worse off than he actually was. But I do think that's the most surprising because I was kind of writing him off as a rookie just because of the injury.
Yeah, I've been referencing back a little bit to a Puka Nakua, not because that they're the same kind of players. I think they're very much different in how they operate, but just in the same way with Puka Nakua, a lot of what had him fall, and Puka didn't even have the production this kid did in college, but just that the injury stuff was the worry, and you knew he could play, but that was just the main thing. It wasn't a matter of he's got some T-Rex arm deficiency, Brendan, or he's a 4.7 guy on a 40. It's really just down to just that, quite simply, as to why he did drop. And he is, for me, too, the guy that has been the most surprising, the most impressive. And that's saying something because there's been so many that have been getting so many glowing reports throughout camp. And we even got a feel for in this last preseason game, be it Robbie Oots or Zabel, as you mentioned, and Emawari made a play in this game, run like 11 snaps, had a TFL in the backfield. So these guys are really acquainting themselves well, and there's so many of them that we're hearing so many good things about, and we haven't even gotten a guy like Riley Mills yet. We don't even know what we got. Maybe that guy. I know we haven't gotten enough games yet, but I do think you get a feel a little bit about, don't you, with rookies, in that you can get in camp and preseason games where a guy's going to do something, or at least I'm not talking about be impactful first year, Brendan, but actually contribute in his first year. That this is the type of stuff you hear about these rookies in camp / preseason game.
Yeah, I'm not really expecting Mills to play this year. I'm down with that. I don't think we need him right now anyway. That was a pretty bad injury he had last year. Or actually, the injury was suffered this year because it was in the playoff.
Mm-hmm.
So that's fine. That's fine. He's for the future. But yeah, guys like Robbie Oots, I actually forgot about him for a second, but you're right. Oots. I could even see Ricky White on special teams, man. I could see Ricky White blocking some punts. That's his specialty. I could see some stuff happen there.
Absolutely, I could. And I think with Ricky, too, there is a potential, at least at the very least, you get him onto the practice squad. I think it'd be interesting to see if they try to not feature him too much in the preseason, much as we go forward, to try to give him that opportunity to slide him in there, because I think the team would like to do that. Just the feel they get, especially for the special teams value that you talked about. I think he adds more than a guy like a White would on the practice squad, and with some upside long term. Maybe a guy that can kind of develop for you in that way. One place that we've been really good at as far as the standing goes on this, that you always hold your breath at this time of the year. And I got to be honest with you, Brendan, I'm really holding my breath over about the next 10 days or so. We've got 2 preseason games. We're going to have the inter-practice game with Packers. It's going to get really intense over this next 10 games in this preparation for the season. But the Seahawks have been able, outside of a McIntosh injury, to avoid anything really major on this. The only one we're kind of holding our breath on is Tyrese Knight. You got anything on this one, or is it as quiet for you on your front as it's been for mine in trying to figure this one out?
It seems like things are fine. What McDonald said was that there were 2 things going on with him. One was the leg, which he indicated was fine, but he also said there was a separate issue that he didn't want to talk about. But he did say it was some kind of a medical issue, which some people were theorizing, maybe he just had a vasectomy, because that's embarrassing, right? You don't want to talk about that. Maybe I can think of a few other things that are kind of embarrassing that you wouldn't want to talk about that are medical, but it almost sounded like it was something like that. It didn't sound like anything that was going to affect the season. So I'm not really too worried about Tyrese Knight at this point personally, but I can definitely understand why somebody would be. And until he's out there, there's always some level of concern that is worth having.
Yeah. And on the good side of it, you have done a good job of avoiding other things. It doesn't sound like the major injury to him. They're just being a little bit quiet on the front of what exactly, is happening as you parse it through. Was there anything from the other preseason game that you thought was notable or worth discussing, just off that the tie there with Carroll coming back?
In terms of stuff that happened on the field, I think Jared Ivey's very interesting because there's an opportunity for an edge to get some burn right now. I don't think you're going to get away with having Mafe Hall and Lawrence. You're going to need a 4th edge. Arguably, you need a 5th, but I think you can get by with 4. But who that 4th guy is, a lot of different theories, right? Some people say we should get Micah Parsons. Some say Trey Hendrickson. Some say
Clowney.
Clowney. Some people say Thibodeau. Some people say Owe. A lot of different stuff percolating around out there. Everybody's got their own take. And I'm sure this team would appreciate it if the solution ended up coming up from within with a guy like Jared Ivey, who I didn't really think was going to be able to play edge in the NFL. And I'm not saying he can yet. We don't know that. But that preseason game was good. There were a couple of videos posted on YouTube over the last few days highlighting his performance. And he looks pretty good out there. So there might be something interesting going on there. That would take care of a problem because I get the sense that Nwosu's just not going to be healthy to start the season. So we got to find another way.
Yeah, and then you do start to wonder with Nwosu as you get closer to the countdown on this, if he is healthy, how effective is he going to be? Because when he was out there last year and finally did get on the field, he wasn't what he was the prior couple of years as a player, and so you do then wonder on an extension outside of that, and the Clowney deal's coming on, and that guy wants to avoid training camp. You'd start to think right about now is about the time he'd start looking to sign somewhere if his intention is to do that. So hopefully the news on that comes down soon if they're going to go down that line of it. Outside the guys you mentioned, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of people that are, or a lot of guys for positions we look at that we're hearing about necessarily being on the cutting block. A veteran that's maybe making a little bit too much money, and this team's not sure if they want to keep him or not. And the rookie's like really flashing out, but we don't really have a lot of other guys. Those guys you mentioned basically encompass what there is from what we know option wise. There doesn't seem like there's going to be a surprise cut of a guy, does there, that we can kind of pluck up on here unless something comes completely out of left field.
And often they do. I mean, I'm not ruling it out. It could happen, but for the moment, I think the assumption should be what you see is what you get.
Yeah, that's how I'm kind of seeing it. Just doesn't seem like there's a ton there, with that. But thought it was a successful opening preseason game, and the Hawks now do turn a little bit of their eyes, Brendan, towards this Kansas City Chiefs game. Hopefully a little bit more of a stiffer test. I think the nice thing about the Raiders, at least they kept their kind of 2s and 1s in a little bit extra longer because the talent on that team's not great. So you got a little bit of a test there, but this one's a bit, more with the team that's been to the Super Bowl recently a couple of times. They're not going to be playing Patrick Mahomes, no Kelsey, no Chris Jones, but our Seahawks are going to be playing some of their starters, aren't they, Brendan?
Yeah, in fact, McDonald has indicated that they're going to play everybody who can. I don't think you're going to see Oluwatimi. It would be kind of weird if he played in a real game after missing a week of practice. I don't think, of course, you're not going to see Nwosu because he's still not healthy. A couple other guys, I don't think you're going to see either. Just precautionary, like you're not going to see Knight. Other than that, I feel like everything's on the table. They already indicated Darnold will play. They already indicated JSN and Kupp are going to play. And at that point, you may as well play pretty much everybody. Now, you got to be a little bit careful because Cross is not going to play because he's still got the hand thing.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're putting Darnold out there without your starting left tackle and your starting center, you don't want to leave him out there too long. You don't want to invite chaos like that. You don't want to invite Armageddon. And I've seen it happen before. In fact, fun fact, that's how Gino Smith became the starter in New York. Rex Ryan put Mark Sanchez in a preseason game behind his third string offensive line, and the inevitable happened.
Yeah, that was an all-time dumb decision. But it was deep into the third quarter, I think he had Mark out there on that game. So yeah, that was an ultimate dumb decision by Mr. Ryan.
Right. So you don't want to be messing around too much, but you can get them into the rhythm and cadence of a real game. You don't have to be you don't have to play them deep into the game. It could be like what the Raiders did last week, where it's one drive. Gino Smith threw 3 passes for the Raiders last week, and he was out. Jean T got the ball 3 times and was out. It could be something like that.
I hope they do go that route with it because, like I say, I'm in a little bit of the hold my breath phase of things. You've gotten through all the training camp, and you're into this last little bit there, and it's like that. It's like the guys that are in the Indianapolis and they've been swimming around with the sharks in the water and seeing all their guys taken. And finally, here comes the boat, and you see the boat and you're just about to get on it, but you got to swim that 100 yards to the boat. And that's that's the scariest 100 yards to get up out of the water. So hopefully it's not too long out there. Like you say, Josh Jones, left tackle. You don't want that for the blind side on Darnold. And another part of this too, Brendan, is that I just really want to see as much as we possibly can of Jalen Milro. I want to get him as much seasoning in this game as I possibly can. I didn't mind having Locke out there last week, but I kind of know what I got in Locke, and it's not bad. It's just I know what I got in Locke, and I don't know if he increases himself that much more as a player with an extra quarter of preseason action here in the perspective of his career. Where do you stand on that one?
The question I would have is just, what is Drew Lock getting out of playing in the preseason? Is he getting anything out of it? At this point, he's a veteran. Maybe there's not much he can get out of playing in the preseason, because And I don't know if you've been seeing this sentiment out there, but I've seen the sentiment out there that Drew Lock is not going to make this team and Milro is going to be the backup. I don't feel that way at all. So I don't think Drew Lock is like wasting time out there by getting these reps. He's going to be on the team this year. I'm almost positive.
Yeah, and I agree with you there. I think you gave him the 2-year deal. I think the intention is to have the 3 quarterbacks and stick with the plan. I do think, though, like you just said, I don't know how much 1 quarter of a preseason game in year 6, 7 that Drew Lock is in is going to do a lot, even in a new offense, theoretically here to really push him forward versus the impact it could have on Milro and the benefit it could have on Milro, understanding that he's going to be the 3rd quarterback this year. That means practice reps. You're going to have them cut down. You only have so many reps you give to the backup as it is. That means the 3rd guy gets almost nothing. So these are the times where he's got to get those reps that I think can be so beneficial long-term. And I would love to be able to get him out there for 3 quarters of this football game if possible. I'm sure it's only going to be, again, 2 quarters where it's probably, Darnold first drive and then Lock for a quarter plus. But I think we know what we've got in the Drew Lock experience, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think it's like, well, it's just he can be a manageable guy to come in there for you, start a couple games here or there if you need him to do so. Milro doing his little in and out thing that he would do in the offense. You can find some effectiveness with that. But I need to know more about with Milro where he's at and what we can count on him, especially because he's going to be playing live snaps this year too, Brendan.
Right. Again, that's the part that's hard to know. Does Drew Lock benefit from taking these getting these reps? Because if not, then certainly you want Milro out there more. And what I would say is that you want the better quarterback out there so that the playmakers have a better opportunity to make things happen. But I don't really know if that's the case right now. Like, there was that one play, and you probably seen it from the game last week, where Torrey Horton had like a 60-yard touchdown. He was pretty open. He was, I think, going to score, and Drew Lock doesn't see him and checks it down to Oots for it was either an incomplete pass or 3 yards. Yeah. So maybe that's not even the case. Maybe Milro would actually do a better job getting the ball to some of these guys, at least with some degree of urgency. At least he'd be trying to push the ball down the field. Maybe Drew Lock's just in the place right now where he's trying to keep everything safe and tight. So I'm certainly open to it. I don't feel too strongly about it, but I would certainly watching Milro right now is more entertaining and interesting. Even if it can occasionally be worse, it's still much more interesting.
It is. And I think the other part that you saw was the downside of Milro, if you're going to wait so long to kind of put him into the game, is now he's with the 3 and the 4s. And you saw a lot of dysfunction. You saw a lot of pre-snap penalties, holding calls. And so now, you're getting less of an ability to see him and what he can do because he's being kind of constrained and restrained by the factors around him a little bit, mainly guys that aren't even going to be making the practice squad that you got out there playing significant snaps in the game. And so that's also another part of me where it gives a little bit better chance to get better assessment on him and his play and where he's at, giving him better help kind of around him a little bit. But it was a good opening salvo for Milro, Brendan. Wouldn't you agree as far as a performance, that being the first one out the gate? I thought he was pretty well under control. Wasn't perfect. There was almost the pick that he threw there when he was coming back around. But looking at the tape, he was going through multiple reads at times, which I wouldn't have expected in his first preseason action to be doing, and knew when to use his legs at the right time. You can feel how that's going to be a part of the game, just that part alone, bringing him in because he is so bloody fast. Did you feel the same way about that performance from him?
Yeah, it was pretty good. It was, like you said, there were a couple of bad plays. He had the one really nice throw on the move. Most of the throws he made were relatively simple and straightforward, but he had that one throw. He was, I think, on the move to his right, and he fit it into a pretty tight window. It might have been Broden who caught it. I'm not sure. It's been a while now. But those guys really like each other, by the way. Every time I hear about Milro making a throw in practice, it's to Broden every time.
Yeah, they've got a crazy connection. I've heard the same thing. And seeing the same thing in person. I saw it in person. They are locked in. Scrimmage practice, they were, and he's looking for him deep too.
Right. But overall it was pretty good. I don't think there should be super high expectations for him right now because this is going to be an extended process with him. So I don't think that anybody should get particularly upset or down or unhappy when he does make a bad play, like the almost pick that you were talking about. I think that's just going to happen, and I'm not going to be too worried about it right now. The thing is, I don't think he's going to play any traditional quarterback this year. I think it's going to be trick play stuff, gadget play stuff. So we don't need him to be playing at that super high level as a traditional quarterback right now. We just need him to work his way towards it.
Yeah, exactly. I don't take it much for an assessment point about, is he doing good? Is he doing bad? It's more just, I just have the faith in that you give him the more work out there on the field and the better benefit that'll bring down the line for it. And that he's actually got snaps he can come back off of. He's got tape he can go back and watch on how he played it and correct it. And I think that you just aren't able to give him that another time of the year. So it's just really vital right now, I think, to try to maximize that with him. But great opening step on his part, Brendan. And you feel pretty good about where he's at right now in his process. He's not falling on his face. It's not looking as bad as Sam Howell did to me in training camp last year, where that was brutal watching Sam. You get much more flash here from this guy and what he's done in training camp, which is very encouraging, because we were wondering where he was going to kind of stand.
Right. I agree.
So we got starters coming out here. The offensive line looked pretty good. Obviously, we had a good commitment for running the ball last week. Hololani looked really good. He looks like a guy, as I'm watching this week, and one of the things I'm going to be paying attention for is that, he looks like a guy that looks not only ahead of Damian Martinez after week 1, but pretty far ahead of Damian Martinez. And this is important, I think, considering the team's probably likely to only keep 3 running backs on the active roster. Kind of disappointed. It wasn't a lot of guys disappointing for me last week, but Damian was kind of one of those. As impressive as I thought George was, I was kind of like, boy, Damian looks like he's kind of running in mud and he's not breaking any tackles.
He is a power back. I'm not shocked. But the thing is, if my assumption was that Damian Martinez would have a head start over Holani because the current offensive coordinator was here when we drafted him, whereas Holani was acquired under Grubb. So I thought that Damian Martinez would have a little bit of a leg up there. I feel like that leg up's probably been lost at this point, because not so much because of anything Martinez did, so much as Holani looked really good. Holani did a lot of positive things out there. And the thing with Martinez is he's not really a third down back. He's not a receiving back. That's not something he did a lot of in college. And I know he had some good reps of it in training camp, but he's not really a good blocker either. So there's a pretty limited window for him to fit into to be a part of this team. And you're right, we didn't see very much of it against the Raiders. I haven't heard very much about Martinez in camp personally. Maybe he is out there doing good stuff, but I haven't heard. I feel like that if we see better stuff from Holani than Martinez in this game, I do think that's a situation where, that's going to be your third running back. And we may not carry the fourth because we're carrying the fullback. I don't know. I mean, you can. I think the question is, what are you doing at tight end? Is Brady Russell going to be the third tight end and the backup fullback? Because that gives you a little roster flexibility, maybe. So I don't know. I feel like Holani's going to take the lead this week, but I don't know how many running backs we're going to carry. It's an interesting thought.
Yeah, I'm unsure as well. And Jarcadia Wright's doing his job of coming in here, making some noise as well to make it even harder of a decision, which is good to see given McIntosh's injury. I did feel like watching in training camp, they had this running back drill they're running where it's, 3 pads in front of each other, 1 pad a little bit ahead of the other pad, and they're doing slide foot work. So running back runs up to it and kind of slides laterally around the pad, pushes up to the next pad, slides laterally around the pad, and you're kind of going bump, 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 right? So it's like a dance where you're just, how quick can you get through them? And you can see a noticeable difference between Damian Martinez and the other running backs when he did it. And that, again, he is a power back, but just a bit of what I did feel from him this last week was a lack of explosiveness, which is fine. But then that first tackler, if you're going to be that guy, like Chris Carson wasn't the fastest, but Chris Carson is going to eliminate the first tackler. No doubt about that. You're not bringing him down with one guy. And I saw guys multiple times last week, one guy bring him down. That's got to be Martinez's bread and butter if he's going to make this roster, if he's going to play in this sport. And hopefully we see more of that from him. Very impressive. Holani's elusiveness, Brendan, and his ability to break that tackle in the open field. One thing I think that'll be standing out in this battle is that this offense, from a running back standpoint, and Walker's really going to benefit from this, is it's going to give you opportunities out on the edge to where you're one-on-one a lot of times with a cornerback. And if you could break that tackle, you're going to bust a big play. We've isolated all the rest of the guys. We've pinned the block down on the edge. Just this guy and you on the outside. Can you break that tackle in short spaces? And if you do, boom, you're gone. You're off to the races. And Holani did a couple of times last week. And I think that component, that big game, that big play component might be enough to push him over the top. But it's going to be a fun battle and something I'm really watching for, this upcoming week. Is there anything that you're looking for in this offensive line? Now I know we don't get Olatimi, no Cross, but anything more that you're looking? Obviously, you want Bradford to look better, but is there anything specific to where, hey, I want to see more of Sundell over at right guard and what he can do there, or hey, let me see the Sundell Zabel combination again and see if that can continue to work, the old Bison boy combination going. Is there anything with that you're looking at?
Well, Bradford, I think, is the big one because he's going to be the starter. I think it's inevitable at this point. Doesn't really. There are some people talking him up. Kubiak had a whole thing, I think it was 2 days ago after a practice, about how much better he looks, how much more consistent he is. But it does kind of feel like he's getting handed the role rather than the fact that he actually won it. It does kind of feel like that Haynes never really provided much resistance, and Sundell had to spend so much time at center because of the Oluwatimi injury that there was never any real, maybe Lomea, but even Lomea, they're moving him around too. They got him at left guard some days. So it does kind of feel like Bradford just got handed the job. I'd like to see him show that he's actually earning it by playing well. So that's my main, but maybe Mike Jarrell. I thought Mike Jarrell actually looked pretty good against the Raiders, and I want to see what they do with the backup tackle spots. Who's the left, who's the right? Because you got Jarrell, you got Jones. Jarrell's skill set might be better suited for the left side, and Jones's skill set might be better for the right. So far, it seems like they're doing the opposite of that, but I wonder if they get to a point where they feel confident enough to flip that around.
Oh, good point. I feel really good about those tackles, at least as much as we're unsettled and unsure about where the interior of the line's kind of at overall. You at least go, well, hey, the tackle and the tackle depth, we feel pretty good about where that thing is standing. And I think that's an accurate way of putting it with Bradford, that he's just been kind of given this, when it's all said and done, given the job. It does sound like when you hear Kubiak and McDonald talk, that with him, that there's not some latent issue with him that holds him back, that he doesn't have a way to overcome this thing. The way you've especially heard Mike talk about him too, Brendan, was just, it sounded like can do and want. It's almost like a little bit of an extension of what you get from Woolen at times in the way the coaches talk about him, where they've got all the ability in the world, or at least they've got all the potential there in the world, but do they want it? Do they want to be great? Can they lock in every play? Can they, keep that consistent line? Do you get that same impression in the way the coaches talked about him?
I get what you're getting at. I definitely get what you're getting at. I feel like with Woolen, it's a little more positive. I feel like there's more of a sense that, especially now that he's playing for a contract and it could be a monster contract, I am getting this sense a little bit more there that he's locked in. With Bradford, I feel like there's a little bit more of the thing you're talking about, where it's like potential. He's got talent. I will say one word that Kubiak used about Bradford 2 days ago was consistency, which I liked, because that was something that McDonald said was lacking earlier in camp. So that's good, but that's definitely going to have to be something that we see on the field, because I know that there's a pretty big majority of Seahawks fans that are just kind of sick of Bradford, and they have this really very negative sense for him. So he's not going to earn it by getting positive reviews from the coaching staff right now. He's going to earn it by playing well on the field. And we might be set up in a situation where he's actually going to have some stability around him. So it's one thing when you don't know who your center is going to be from week to week, the right tackle spot swapping out every other game we play. This year, there might be stability there. You might get a full season of Lucas and a full season of Oluwatimi. So then there's really no excuse. It's one thing when last year we literally played 4 different right tackles throughout the season, but this year he should have a lot of camaraderie with these players. Maybe all of them, really.
It's a good point. I think also as well, you've had him here, whether or not you and Mike did echo to your thoughts on this, that they're going to try to rotate less this year, and that's not going to be the centerpiece of what they try to drive towards. But at the very least, if there is some small rotation or some small change, at least you do have the same parts within this offensive line coming in. Jalen Sundell has now worked with Bradford for a couple of years. Oluwatimi has worked with the Bradford for a couple of years. It does feel like at least maybe you get a little bit of that cohesion aspect on it if there's a little fluctuation. But I do agree. I think that the goal here is they're trying and understand. Kubiak talked about it, that you want to get the cohesion part. You want that part where these guys are on the same page. You can only get there by really getting to a certain offensive line starter across the board where you're not just moving guys, in and out on that side of it. But hopefully they can continue to build upon the performance from last week on this offensive line. Brendan, if Zabel can be what he was last week, which is a guy that doesn't seem like he needs a lot of help inside, be it in the run block or in the pass protection game, maybe now you can slide a little bit of that help over to Bradford. And his whiffs and some of the worries you have with him in pass protection now get mitigated by the fact that you're able to give him a lot more help than maybe you would have been able in the past if you had like in Tomlinson over there on the left guard spot in pass pro.
Right. I remain a bigger fan of Bradford than most, I think, because I recognize his potential. I think a lot of people can't see that right now, but I actually have a pretty decent feeling about him in general. I feel like we're going to end up happier with him than expected.
I'm still open to it. I still remember he's got that athleticism, that length, that stuff that you can teach. And if you got the good teachers, you're going to have a player that's got that potential still inside of him, to your point. And I think that does exist in him. And I think he gives us the highest upside of any guard that we could be putting out there. Maybe there are guys that have a little more initial competent play that's a little bit higher, but he would be the guy that gives you that true full upside for the season if he can just realize, in on that potential. That's the great what if. But to your point on the offensive line being still a worry, I think three of their bottom 5 guys by PFF's offensive rank were offensive linemen. LeMay still has, watching some tape last night, rough moments in pass pro, Brendan, where it's like you think Bradford's got whiff problems. Like LeMay just gets flat, still beat in pass pro where it's brutal. So we got to roll with this guy. He's going to have to do it one way or the other because there may not be a lot of answers behind him as it stands right now.
Yeah, that's why you run the ball. That's why you run the ball.
Right. Run, man. And he can do that. He's a big boy. And your worries with him is pass pro, right, Brendan? But he can get after guys in the run blocking game and move people. And he can even, get to the second level and climb a bit. He's got some mobility to him.
Yeah, and I was really happy to hear that we're not going to be rotating offensive linemen this year because that's something I despise.
Me too. Yeah, I hate it. It's like as a coaching staff, it's like we don't want to pick, like get on the pot and pick something. Have I understand you don't feel settled with the guy you're picking, but roll with something, rock with it. You've had all these practices and all this training camp. You shouldn't be like, well, we just still need the week 6 game. I need 1 quarter of Bradford and I need 1 quarter of Haynes to still kind of make a determination about what's going on. That to me speaks to a coaching staff's not seeing it cleanly in practice as to who or who isn't winning. And that's to me not a good pathway for a good offensive line or for consistency from an offensive line.
Yeah. I tend to agree with that. And offensive line play is all about camaraderie. It's all about connection. It's all about knowing where everyone else is going to be. It's all about, can you trust your teammate to be here so that when you're there, the play is going to work. Yeah. And that can only happen if these guys get to go out there week after week after week together.
It's true. It's absolutely true. This is the next thing we're going to need if we want this offensive line to truly come together and not be a weakness on this team. And it only is going to come with what Brendan just said, actually providing a solid, consistent unit out there that knows exactly what they're doing. Also adjustments, Brendan. Blitz is coming. I know what this guy's doing in my left. I got a stunt here. I know exactly how this guy's going to handle this stunt. So all these things are little small details that are so important, but you can only get it if you're just playing rep after rep with that guy beside you.
Right.
We got a new member for you over on your side, Jay Bra. Thank you for becoming a member of Seahawks Brendan Nelson's channel. And if you can, folks, if you're either watching on Seahawks Brendan Nelson or over on the Hawks Nest here, hit that like button if you could for us. It does help us up. Get subbed up. Become a member as well on either of our channel, as there are great benefits for both, and we really do appreciate it. But thank you, Jay. You're awesome for that.
Welcome aboard.
CPLT Shaw, thank you for the $5 donation. Really kind of you. He says, Olu deserves the starting job. He stepped up when our starting center out of nowhere retires with a whole training camp. He can be very solid. Hashtag Go Hawks.
My understanding is that Olu has also looked a lot better in camp so far compared to Sundell. So yeah, he certainly deserves it. I think the ceiling with Olu is pretty low, but I also think there's a decent floor there, and that can be okay. There's nothing necessarily wrong with that. Like Pro Football Focus ranked every starting center in the league, and he was ranked 31st, to give you an idea of how low the ceiling could be.
That's weird by PFF. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they don't like him very much at all. But at the same time, if you can be not one of the better centers in the league, you can just be stable. Like Connor Williams was probably a little bit better of a center than Oluwatimi. I agree, but I feel like he wasn't really trustworthy in the same way that Oluwatimi is. And it's not just the snaps. The snaps are part of that. But I feel like Oluwatimi is just kind of provide a nice level, stable, like I said, floor, where he's not the athlete that you want from the position in this scheme, but that doesn't mean he can't get the job done. Like he was great in zone schemes in college.
Yeah. He's technically very strong, and that can get you around sometimes athletic limitations to getting to certain blocks. And with Olu, because he's so wise, because he's played so much football, he's got that in just to a big degree. And it shouldn't be undersold, being that he is that good with it. And like you said, it showed up all the way back at Michigan. This is why he was the best offensive lineman, I think, Outland Award winner, whatever, in college in his final year. I forget what it was, but he did win that award for this reason. Is he's got a lot of ability in what he brings to the position. It's just like you say, the athleticism is really the missing component. Maybe he doesn't have as much size as you maybe like, a little bit bigger guy, but he's got enough there to get the job done. And he certainly is better than the 31st best center in this sport. He's probably a 19th-ish guy coming into this year with a little bit of a potential, I think, to get into that probably 13th, 14th range, which is plenty good for us. That's dominant center performance for us, considering where it's been in recent years.
Yeah, Pro Football Focus was mean to us this offseason. They ranked all the positions. I don't know if you were keeping track of it.
A bit, yeah. I mean, it's been the oddity to me on this, to be honest with you, with the outlook of where people are nationally on this all the way. Maybe they just have it right when there's so many unison of voices, Brendan, that are saying this is where your team is at, and that they're all in that same place. That maybe they're getting it right. Maybe they're seeing it clearly in the way that I'm not. But I just don't see how a team that has 3 straight winning seasons, a team in the first year of a new head coach, goes and gets 10 wins, that's a team that backtracks specifically down to just simply you lost Gino and you lost DK. And that backtracks you. And it seems like it just sort of impinges all the rest of the roster. You mentioned Oluwatimi 31. He was the 19th highest graded PFF center last year. So, and playing a significant amount of the season at that. So how does PFF look at their grading system and go, he was here, but we're going to drop him down 12 spots or 11 spots, whatever it is, 10 spots, I guess, from that. This is where I go, where some of their math isn't mathing for me.
Yeah, they had Darnold as the 27th best quarterback in the league, which I'm not even as big a fan of Darnold as some people, but that one was that was tough. Like they had him basically in the same area as Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, and like there's no way that's consistent with reality.
That's where I'm good. If you want to make that argument with, you go, well, I'm not as big. I'm not, but like you say, it's the overstating part of it, where like they've taken it to a bit of an extreme degree on this, and where their outlook of it to better, 4th place team, and it just locking this in. It just doesn't seem like it's really, when I've pulled back the layers on this, I don't see somebody when they're coming to these assessments really basing it on a whole lot outside of just a general feeling they have about the team. Or just that they come back to it being a lot of times where it's like, well, you lose Darnold and you lose DK and Cooper Kupp, or you lose Gino and DK, and Cooper Kupp and Darnold are this monstrous step back from that. I mean, you're going light years backwards now as a team, just on those 2 components alone for a whole team. Say nothing of returning all of your defensive starters, 15 guys that started defensive games last year. I don't know how you see that people would see it on a big step. I can see a little step back. You can tell me, well, maybe they're only going to take 8 wins. Maybe they only get to, but like this talk of 4th place, and I don't get that. It's kind of beyond the pale to me a bit.
Yeah. I mean, the schedule alone, even if they are big steps back, even if there is like a really big step back there, that schedule alone should produce a similar result, even in a pretty bad case.
Yeah. I agree. That's another thing to consider with this, is that schedule aspect of it. But we're getting slept on in a big way. These outlets, national, whatever, Vegas, are either going to look really silly again here, and they got silly last year, which I think they are. But I don't get why it's such a simplistic outlook towards Seattle in some way of how they're being assessed, rather than really looking at the greater whole, looking at where we've been in recent years, which has not been a bad team. It's been a team that's been good while it's been young, and rebuilding in a lot of ways, which should be more of a harbinger to success coming even more so into the future. But they seem to think that it's going the opposite way. Ben, thank you for the $5 donation, Ben. He says, I'm most excited with the fact that we are done with the rotating offensive line BS. That's the last piece of the puzzle we need to get back into the playoffs. Go Hawks.
I'm hoping it holds, right? Like last year, we didn't really want to rotate offensive linemen. We just kind of had to because the right tackles kept getting hurt. But yeah, at least there's not like the Gabe Jackson situation, if you remember a couple years ago, where the plan was, oh, he's going to get the first 20 snaps of the game. Then we're going to put in, I can't even remember. It might have been Phil Haynes. I think it was Phil Haynes actually for the next 20 snaps. And then Gabe's knee is going to feel better because he got rested. So he's going to go in for the next. I hated that. I couldn't stand that. That bothered me.
Yeah, I think literally in my history of watching NFL, there's been zero situations where you can find rotations at an offensive line in game and that breeds success for an offensive line. Zero have I ever seen that ever work. And part of the reason it frustrates me so much. So, Ben, it does look like they're done with that. You did do a bit of it too with Bradford and Haynes last year on that whole, he gets one quarter, he gets in, and whoever has had the best game in the fourth quarter will play. No. Let's roll with one guy. Let's trust in one guy. Let's take the lumps with them. With Bradford, look, you're going to get lumps. You're going to get whiffs, but you're going to get some good blocks in there as well. And he's the right guard, so he's going to get a lot of help in there with the center. So you can get around a little bit of some of the issues that are there with him. But Ben, we are all in alignment on this one, being that the rotations are not good for anybody. Let's rock with a line. It's not going to be great this year. We didn't put a ton into this. We got Zabel. We didn't add a lot on top of that. So it is what it is. But it doesn't have to be completely as bad as it's been in the past. And one of the ways you can get it to success is by locking in on a group, letting them roll together, letting them grow together. And hopefully they just get better as the season goes along if you're able to commit to that.
Yeah. And there's obviously going to be a tremendous amount of the scheme needs to carry more so than the talent. The talent level has not been upgraded that much.
Yeah.
But the scheme, I mean, like, honestly, that first game, the preseason game, I didn't think the run blocking looked that good. I thought that we still were able to be productive on the ground despite it because of some of the stuff that Kubiak is bringing in here. Like that first play, the first play of the game for the Seahawks offense, the interior offensive line kind of collapses, but Helani gets to the outside. There's nobody out there. Stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, I agree with you. And this is what the front office has said, that they expect to be the big thing that will push this improvement forward. And they have, by not necessarily attacking the line with a lot of talent, but saying, no, we think it's coaching. We think it's development. And they have said that over and over and over again throughout the offseason. I mean, to a man, John Schneider has, and a variety of people have. So, this is where they're saying it's at. And you saw, like you say, to your point on this, that play out this last preseason game where indeed the scheme seemed to benefit the players in a lot of ways. The utilization of the outside run game, Brendan, pitch plays to the outside, when so much of our run game has been predetermined to be inside runs a lot of times in years past. That's a big part of it, where now the defense has to really, to me, defend all the way around as far as your rushing attack, not just between the B gap on either side. You're getting out there on the edge now. So, that at least worked out that way in the first week, Brendan, and I think it will help this as we go forward. It's not going to correct everything or fix everything, but it will make it look better, won't it? The scheme and the system and Benton and all of that coming together with Kubiak.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a question of consistency. There are going to be some games where it collapses and nothing goes well because the talent level still isn't totally there yet.
Yeah.
But I think that in most games, it'll be okay.
Yeah. And it will be improved. It'll look better, look functional, which is what we saw last week. That's the most important part.
Right.
Thrill House, thank you for the $2 donation, Thrill House. Mariners, World Series, Hawks, Super Bowl, Sonics back in 2026. Well, that would be a hell of a year, wouldn't it, Brendan?
Yeah, we need a year like that. It's been a little bit dry around here. What about the Huskies, though? What about the Huskies?
Damon's a little young. He needs a little bit of time. You know what I mean? He's a little bit of time.
The hype train is building for that guy, though. I wasn't sure last year. I was like, this guy's so small. But like, he went to the Peyton Manning. What do they call the Peyton Manning quarterback camp? Yeah, it's like passing academy, I think. And he was great there. And now there's like Heisman hype for this guy. Like that train is leaving the station. And I may have to buy a ticket. I may. I wasn't buying the ticket last year. I might buy that ticket.
I'm with it. I'm hopeful. It'd be great to see the Huskies back. It felt like they had to kind of reset last year after, what they did with the national title and getting right close like they did. It happens to all college, helping in Michigan, where it's like you build up that point and you kind of lose your guys and you got to kind of reset things. So if they could bounce back, that'd be cool. And one more quarterback in the mix that just continues to look good and better and be a high drafted guy, be all the better for the NFL as we go in the future. So it's possible this year. Pretty cool too with the Mariners actually going out and doing some swings at the deadline and really bringing in the right players, not just grabbing a stick, but actually grabbing sticks that like Eugenio's hitting that park before, knows how to hit in that park. The left-handed nailer kid that they brought in, and he's such a good hitter for that park, draws walks, contact, just a line drive kind of stroke. I mean, that's just perfect for that stadium. They got a chance this year, man, Brennan. They got as good a chance as maybe any time we've seen this Mariner Ball Club, even going back to 2001.
We got to get the hell out of Camden Yards, though. We got to we got to forfeit today's game and just get out of Baltimore.
How do you going to struggle hitting in that park? Like you can literally stand at home plate and grab the top of Camden Yards fence from home plate. That fence is so short in that park. It's like
I don't get it.
Flies leave the stadium.
I hate playing there though. So
yeah, I don't like it either. I've never liked that stadium since they opened it. Never have liked it. I've always thought it was just dumb looking, but the only thing cool about it is the brick wall out there that Griffey hit once. And, and the home run derby. That's the only.
They put out. What is it? A factory or something out there?
Yeah.
It was? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and they got the plaque for it for where Griffey hit it. You know, they got the like right where the ball hit. They put a Griffey plaque there. Griffey hit it here. Kind of cool.
Yeah.
But well said, Thrill House, and we'll see about the Sonics, man. NBA is in that weird, funky place where it's like ratings aren't in the highest spot. You know, they would have liked to probably brought Seattle back a couple of years ago, but they're trying to figure out right now kind of how to regain some of their footing, it feels like, NBA wise.
Yeah. It's hard. They're losing viewership, and they still have Curry and LeBron. Those guys are going to retire. Those are your two big pulls.
Yeah. It does feel like there's a little bit of a reinvention in order with the NBA. I feel like MLB's been able to benefit from some of this and some of the rule changes they brought to play, the pitch clock, getting the guy on second base in extra innings, trying to speed up the game. You got to sometimes do some house cleaning on your sport to get it back to where it needs to be. And it does feel like basketball needs to do a little bit of house cleaning right now.
Yeah, get rid of the lottery. Just let the worst teams get the top picks. Yeah. Like, what's wrong with that?
Agreed, especially when it looks like you've manipulated it so many times over the years.
Mm-hmm.
That's the other thing with that. It's like, not only is it ridiculous on the face of it, but you're using it for the worst thing to be using it for, you think, in theory, if you had it in place.
Yeah. I know a guy who's a Jazz fan, and every year during the lottery, he's crashing out without fail because every year the Jazz move down.
Yeah.
Every year they're moving down like 3 spots from where they should be. And every year it's like you can set your watch to it.
It's a tough sell going. Not everyone wants to go live in Salt Lake, you know, that's not for him. But now the benefit for him may be that this is what we'll see if this lottery system BS now is I think next year, like the guy from Utah is due to be like the best player coming out.
Oh yeah.
So whoa, what a coincidence it'll be if Utah ends up with the #1 pick in the NBA next year. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And they probably will have the top odds. So that won't even be like improbable, but
there is a part of me though that is like because it's something we don't ever really get in the NFL, and it's kind of drives me crazy sometimes about the Hawks organization because they've had times like Brock Huard you drafted, and Jeremy Stevens you drafted, but there is a cool aspect to a guy playing college and then going to the pro, and he's a local kid and he goes to the local team, and that whole thing I do like that, but I hate the manipulation aspect of it. Yeah. I like the stories of guys going to a place and then they play there, and it's like there's that local connection, and they grew up on the team. Maybe they were fans of the team. We haven't seen that much here with ours. We don't get that opportunity as much, but it is cool.
So you're saying next year, Denzel Boston?
I'm just saying, yeah. We need a receiver. You know what I mean?
He's good, man. He's good. I like him.
Yeah, he's fun. I enjoy playing. I was in NCAA playing him. He's got some contested catch skills. I just threw it up to him constantly. let him go up and moss the cornerbacks in the game. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, Denzel Boston, people, pay attention this year. It's going to be I don't know how many games they're going to win, but they're going to put up some offensive fireworks this year.
They'll be fun. If you're not going to be good, at least be fun, you know? Or if you're going to be good and fun.
Right.
Kasra Solari, thank you for the $5 donation. Kasra, good to see you. Says, I cannot imagine why it is so hard for us to find a playable right guard. 2 draft picks and nothing to show for it. I think we make a move mid-season.
It is uniquely frustrating because theoretically it should be the easiest offensive line position to fill because the talent gap on right guard is smaller than the other positions. they tend to be the most replaceable because they tend to just be like bigger, stronger guys, right? There's not as much pressure to be mobile. Even center, which I think center is relatively replaceable in the modern NFL. I think that it's still easier to find a right guard, and we can't do it. Like, there are teams out there, I feel like a lot of teams just have some random 6th round pick there, and they're fine.
Yeah, they find a way to get by with it. I agree with you. I share your frustration, Cosra. It's been one where you can't seem to find an answer. We all remember Damian Lewis's first rookie year where he was actually really solid there, and you moved him right out of there. And it feels like since you moved Lewis back over to left guard, you haven't had an answer at right guard since then. But it's been honestly, it's also been just a place when I look at Seattle Seahawks history and an offensive line and what has been the place when I go through our history that like I'm always coming back to going, we're just kind of getting by there. We don't ever have any impact there. 05 roster, Chris Gray was solid, but wasn't the strongest part of that offensive line and might have been the weakest link on that line. You go to the 2013 ball club, Paul McQuiston at right guard, probably the weakest part of your offensive line. This has just been the way it's kind of gone for us, where historically speaking, we just can't figure it out.
Makes you miss J.R. Sweezy.
It does, man. Sweezy's probably by far the best right guard we've had in our history. By far. Yeah, not even close.
Yeah. I hope that's not true, but maybe it is. That's depressing.
Unless you want to go, I think Brian Millard was a left.
Yeah.
I'm going deep on that one, but I cannot think of a guy at right guard in my time where I'm like, that guy was awesome for us. It's been a position where we're always signing some guy like a Brian Habib type or just some guy end of his career guy too, like Gabe Jackson was, what it feels like for decades, we've always been trying to like throttle some guy in there who's just coughing and limping and, fingers are all busted up like those linemen get, like Anthony Richardson, where it's like turned sideways and you're not getting the best of the best at that point.
Edwin Bailey was a tackle, right?
Yeah, I believe so. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So not great.
Not great, man. Not great. Seth K. Aloha, thank you for the $5 over on Brendan's side. He says, not going to be surprised if Ivy makes the roster. Did a really good job at setting the edge and playing the run. He looks strong. Love these collab vids. Thank you, Seth.
Mm-hmm. There's a little bit of Ivy hype. There's I've seen a couple of cut up videos with him now. Not even necessarily like big Seahawks channels, just football tape channels buzzing about him a little bit, because this was a guy who was supposed to be maybe a day 2 pick, and then he tested terribly.
He did. I believe I can't remember where I had my big board, but I believe I had a 4th round grade on him. Do you remember where your grade was at on him?
I think I was around there. I think I was right around there too. I think it was about 4th for me. I don't have it on me though, but that sounds right. I was surprised that he went undrafted.
Yeah, he's dinged in the ways of like Torrey Horton would be, where certain prospects are really complicated, where it's like, well, there's a little bit of this and there's a little bit of this and there's a little bit of that sort of takes their value down a notch from where you might think they are based off their productivity and being good college players. With Ivy, it just did come down to really the testing times. He's not necessarily got the awesome looking body like a Shamar Stewart, where it's like built in a lab either. So there's a little bit of looking at him going, it's kind of an awkward sized body, a little bit bigger off the edge. But Seth touches on a really important part here, which is this is the pathway for Ivy to make this roster right now, which is that he doesn't have to be a dominant player within this rotation. He doesn't have to be an impactful player within this rotation. If he can fit to a role within this rotation and make the roster of early down, power edge, set the edge, be strong as hell kind of dude, and then let our guys that are pass rushers have a little bit of that rest on those early downs to supply that role. That's where he makes the roster. That's where he actually can get out on the football field and play a little bit.
Right. We're not asking for the world here, right? I mean, if he is your 4th edge when the season starts, you're probably only looking at like 20 snaps a game. You're going to get your better players out there more.
Yeah.
Especially because, and maybe this ends up not being the case, this defense should be good. We shouldn't be on the field that much. We should be getting off the field kind of quickly here. I think the days of us having games where the defense is on the field for 80 snaps in one game, that should be mostly over. So You're not going to ask the world of him, but yeah, you can get basic level play out of him.
Agreed. And at 270, this isn't a guy's 255 that's rocked up and super strong. This is a guy 270 going up against tackles that are going to be like, man, I'm not used to dealing with a guy that's this big and he's got this length to him, and just he knows how to use his hands too. He knows what to do as far as to be. He's not a full-on technician kind of guy, but he's got a little bit of that to his game, and so I think he can supply a little bit of a roller, Seth. And it was great to see him out there. He was looking really good and really hard to control. You could just see how he kind of can manhandle tackles at times out there on the edge for his size and how strong he is. So well said on your part, and I think me and Brendan both see it the same exact way.
Right now, I will say my gut is I would still like to bring in somebody like Clowney rather than trust someone like Ivy, but I could have my mind changed over the next couple of weeks here.
I find myself in the same camp on that, Brendan, where I do feel still hardly in that place. But if the team does have the confidence that he can be that early rundown edge defender for them, and they don't have to make that move then because of it, I would trust in them to be willing to lean in that way. But you got to have a lot of trust in that, because the difference there for what you're getting in Clowney, you just bare minimum as an early down run defender, say nothing of what you get him as a pass rusher, seems like much more on the surface, especially considering the cheap cost of Clowney. But like you say, you'd get it. You'd understand. Seth K. Aloha with another $2 donation. Thank you for that, Seth. The double dip donation. Again, over on Brandon's side, says, nice that Jarrell can play both backup right tackle and left tackle.
Yeah, I last year he was right tackle because that's what we needed, but I do think his skill set might be more built for left.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think it's where you'll see him at his best and most comfortable over there. Tackles tend to tell you that they like usually one side or the other, but his familiarity there, both Josh Jones and him have that swing tackle ability. You feel just so much more solid about your backup tackles than you've been in recent years, which is just so very encouraging. Just a great development so far, especially because we do still have so many questions that kind of do exist when it comes to the interior of the offensive line.
Yeah. I feel pretty decent about the outside right now. I don't know about Jones, because I think Jones has mostly played guard in his career. He's just kind of playing tackle because that's what we need. But I think we can get by for 1 year.
Well, he's got the tackle background going to college, at least with Houston. So he's done in the past and had done a lot of it. He's got that at least familiarity in doing it.
Mm-hmm.
JRD 243. So thank you for 5 months over on the Hawks Nest side of it as a member. I really thank you for that dedication and support. Is Locke starting again tomorrow, or is Milro starting, or are we getting the starters?
Yeah, we're supposed to get starters. We are supposedly going to be getting, I think, almost all the starters.
Mm-hmm.
Can play, will play.
Yep. Like Brendan said earlier on this 2GRD, you're probably only going to get one series out of all of them out there, but savor the flavor. Maybe it'll be a nice series at that. And then hard to say how much we're going to get of Locker and Milro. I'm pining for Milro and getting more of him, but I could certainly see them going with kind of a similar thing to what they did last week, where Darnold and Locke essentially take up two quarters to a little bit, maybe even the first possession, the second half, and then Milro just sort of gets the rest. It could definitely play out that sort of similar fashion, but you're at least getting a little bit of those starters.
Right. And again, it's not really so they can go out there and put up a touchdown or anything. It's just to get them in the rhythm of a real game.
Yeah.
Where, you actually go out into the field and you actually play a little bit, even if it's just one play. Even if it's just one play, you've established that cadence.
Yeah. Just get him in the rhythm. The rhythm. That's all we're trying to do there.
Right.
Hawks Coots, thank you for the $7 Canadian. Appreciate you for that, Hawks Coots. Says today Sims had us finishing 4th, Chris Sims, and Florio had us finishing 3rd. I don't get it. Cowherd had us finishing 1st. That's the only love I've seen from national guys. How about Cowherd giving a little bit of love back to his Pacific Northwest roots? He rarely does that. So maybe he's getting some inside word from somebody on that one.
Yeah. He can keep it though. I can't stand that guy. I'm just gonna say it. I'm sorry. I don't like that guy.
Look, when you're a hot take artist and you slide back and forth, and when they can start doing those videos like they did with the old Skip Bayless, where they have you arguing a point against yourself, like they flip the screen on it, they flip one of the videos and it looks like you're arguing yourself on the very same point, and one day you're arguing this way and the other day you're arguing that way. It's like, yeah, that's going to frustrate people because it just doesn't seem you're basing anything off anything. You're just sort of speaking to speak at that point.
Hopefully somebody does that with me one day.
It would be pretty funny if you could. I don't think you could, though. You're consistent in your outlook of things. So it's like that's only happens if you're inconsistent in your takes and going back and forth. And he is very inconsistent on that side of it. But yeah, I think that there's been a bit of a lazy aspect. We were talking earlier about this on the stream, Brendan, but I think that the national outlook on this, even Vegas's outlook on this, in doing the study on Vegas, Brendan, that it's not the first time. Going on my cat. In studying this is not the first time Vegas has gotten things wrong in a major way. And you look over a 10-year period with Vegas where everybody goes, well, Vegas is never wrong. The house is never wrong. Da, da, da. Well, it's like, no, they've been wrong more often than not over 10 years. And when they've been wrong, they've been massively wrong at that. So it's, to me, just one where people have been a little bit lazy in their outlook of Seattle. I don't get why. I don't understand it, but I do think it's a bit of laziness in some of these people's outlook. And I get that they all love up them Niners and they love up the Rams. And that's part of it too, is just everybody can't help but just gushing over them. But it's like, also, the Niners finished last year. They got an old roster. Like, okay, it's an easy schedule, but can't overlook that as well.
I don't see how anybody could look at all the injuries the Niners have had so far in camp and feel good about them at all. It is looking like maybe the year from hell, and I know they just had that year from hell, and that schedule, they can probably kind of accidentally win 10 games, even if they have all the injuries imaginable. But that is looking like things are setting up for another bad year because they don't have the depth to survive those injuries at all.
And I don't think these pundits are taking that into account. What's happening with camp, Juwan Jennings' contract situation, they're just looking at it going, it's the Niners. They'll be good. And, oh, yeah, they got an easy schedule. They'll be good. I think it's a lot of simplistic nature that drives people into these outlooks, Hawks, Coots, and why they're going where they're going. With Coward, maybe he's really trying to look at it, and maybe he's looking at it also for what's going on right now. You got Stafford with epidermal shots he's getting put into his back. Niners having a little bit of a sub-dark camp in the way that they've looked. Cardinals are the Cardinals. I can't take them seriously. So maybe he's doing a little bit of that extra, math on the situation, but it is wild how many have us so firmly pegged down into the bottom of the division this season.
Mm-hmm. I remember last year, Coward was a big Darnold guy. And it might be as simple as, whose agent is signing his checks.
Oh, to your point, he's been a Darnold guy going back to USC, and he loves himself USC.
Yeah, and he we all know about the arrangement that Wilson's agent and Coward had for a long time there. And then there came a point 2 years ago where you could tell that Sean Payton clearly outbid Mark Rodgers with the Coward thing, because overnight Coward flips from the biggest Russell Wilson fan to the biggest anti-Wilson guy. Suddenly he's all over Sean Payton. And there's no way that happened organically. There's just no way.
Yeah, it was interesting how Payton got in on that for where the love fest was on Wilson, to your point. I hadn't thought about that as much recently, but it was a very quick transition on his part to just going completely, Wilson could do no wrong, to Payton can't do anything with this. He can't salvage any part of this. What is he to do with this broken piece? It's not his fault. It was kind of overnight that switched. And again, why part of the bothersome nature of Coward is are you principled on your takes, or is it just all about, well, am I being entertaining? I can lie, I can BS, I can be untrue. As long as I'm entertaining in what I'm doing, then I'm doing my job. And I tend to think that's a real sort of low end way of doing what you do. And he's been successful. Who am I to knock him on it? But I don't think this is where the sports talk in the general in the future is going to go. I think people are going to more favor those that are a little bit more principled in their standing of things.
Yeah, and if anybody wants to find out where my line is, where I'll sell out, you can hit me up in the email, make offers. I'm sure there's a line somewhere. I'm sure there is a point where I'll go for it.
It's also tiered. 5K, you get some tacit, generally pro talk of your guy over the course of a 6-month period. We go 10K. You can get effusive praise almost on the constant. 20K, you get a whole couple of videos. You got to tier the system. You got to give them options, Brendan.
Right. Absolutely.
But thank you, Hots, Coots. Appreciate it on that. And interesting. Cowherd finally comes around on us, I guess, eventually. Better late than never. Kyle from South Park, thanks for the $2 donation. Says Brock Heward says Charbonnet will be running back 1. What are your thoughts?
I don't know if he has the speed to get outside as consistently as Kubiak's going to like on his outside zone stuff. That's not to say that I don't think he has a role on this team. I think he very clearly does. But I still think, and I know that some people are saying, oh no, Charbonnet is a great fit for the outside zone, and Walker dances too much to be a good fit for Kubiak's scheme. I still think Walker's just a better fit for the way in which Kubiak's going to want to run the ball. And also, I guess the other side of this is it doesn't really matter who starts so much because they're both going to play. It's just about getting those guys on the field for the right plays, the right situations. So I'm not really too concerned about who the starter is, but I'm not really buying this Charbonnet thing so much under Kubiak.
Yeah, I think I find myself in the same place, Kyle, when it comes to the outlook of the Charbonnet-Walker discussion, where it becomes kind of semantics more than anything else. Both of these two guys are going to get touches. Charbonnet is going to be your third down back. That's his role bare minimum. And then Walker will be your main starting back, but Charbonnet will get his share of touches coming in behind him. Another part of this is, can Walker stay healthy? He struggled throughout camp again to stay healthy. And this one little banged up injury, and yeah, then suddenly Charbonnet becomes the running back one. Again, we come back to kind of semantics on that. Is he actually running back one, or is it because of this thing played out, which always kind of plays out and has played out this way with Walker? I'm not sure on that one, but I think Charbonnet certainly is going to find a role. I do think, like Brendan says, I do worry a little bit about the burst and the speed, which is two of the big parts to the running back in the system. And then I think he's got just enough, but I don't think that it's like bubbling over like you do get a little bit with Walker in that way, which will drive, I think, Coobs to have Walker a bit more out on the football field. But if Walker's healthy, he's going to get 200 and 240 touches in this offense this year. So which one's running back one, which one's running back two? I mean, that's I still think that there's room for Charbonnet to get another 100, 150 touches on the backside of that. So it's like, does the 50 touch difference really make, a big difference between the two? I don't think it does on that over the course of a season. But they're both going to be used and hopefully used well in this offense.
Right. But I think Walker will have a bigger role on this team than Charbonnet still. Yeah. I think that I'm still seeing some people who want to trade Walker at this point, but I don't think this offense survives with Charbonnet as running back one. I don't know if he is a running back one, and I really don't think he's a running back one in this scheme. Like, I don't think that works at all.
No, I agree with you, especially with his third down back role that he's carved out, and he's played really well. He's a very good blocker. He's got good hands out of the backfield. I think that you've got your roles fit here. Walker's in the final year of his contract. You're not getting value back on him in a trade right now. Use him in this final year to get what you can get out of him, and hopefully he's hungry and he's going to be out the field as much as possible so he can go earn that contract. So, but yeah, I think he still ends up getting more touches too. I 100% agree with you there. Kasra Salari, thank you for another $5 donation, Kasra. Appreciate the double dip dono. The issue I have is they talk about Gino and DK as if they are bad when they're on the Hawks, but when they go to other teams, they are viewed as elite.
That might be true for some people. I don't think it's true for Pro Football Focus. They've been consistent on this. They've been pretty consistent thinking that DK is like the 17th or 18th best receiver in football. And they've been consistent thinking that Gino Smith is somewhere around the 10th to 12th best quarterback in the league. I got to give PFF their love. I often disagree with them, but I think they've been consistent.
But absent PFF, this has definitely been the general discussion in ways people outside of Seattle and how they've talked about it in both players. I think that's very accurate.
It's certainly accurate from a few other places. I would agree with that. I think that there are some issues with DK's game that are getting glossed over a little bit now. I have noticed that. I think that's the main thing that I'm picking up on. I do get behind that. And
I've got to say, from my standpoint, I just feel like with Gino, watching how that whole discussion around him in Seattle centered around he's garbage, he's trash the first couple of years. He can't, he's a bridge quarterback. He's all of the worst kind of labels you could throw into kind of a quarterback who's your starter. And now as he goes to the Raiders, he is really viewed, if not elite, he's looked at as this guy that is really good quarterback now. And it did seem like almost overnight that particular narrative did sort of change nationally when it came to Gino versus when he was here versus when he left.
I must not be exposing myself to the same feedback. I don't know. I don't feel like I've really seen that. I don't know. Obviously we're talking about different circles here, and it just depends on who you see. But I believe that it's out there. I believe that's out there. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's not out there. It's not really what I've experienced.
Well, it's just, definitely. I've seen quite a bit, and it's all national. It's where the team people that are nationally speaking about the Raiders and Gino going to the Raiders. and just how he's viewed and looked at upon the way he was viewed and looked at here in Seattle when he was here. It does feel a bit different to me, just from that national perspective of things.
Yeah, well, yeah, maybe a little bit. I mean, I think that they're thinking about, Gino Smith with Chip Kelly in that offense. Like they're thinking, he's going to print stats, especially because that Raiders defense is going to be atrocious this year. He's going to have to throw 5 touchdowns a game just to keep up. So
yeah,
I can see it from that angle a little bit. I think I get it there.
I mean, maybe, but again, it's from at least the way I've heard it, and I've heard a lot. And again, it's not just Cosner saying this. I've heard a lot. I've heard a lot of people in my chat mention about this with Gino specifically, and it's just been so jarring because again, when he was here and the way he was discussed, and the way he's discussed now with the Raiders, absent even Kelly in this part of the process, Brendan, just him as a player. I see a real big difference. Do a Google search article on Gino at the Raiders, and you're going to watch not local Raider people talking, but I'm just look for a national article Google wise, and you'll see effusive praise after effusive praise of him going there and what he brings and what a player he is. I've seen a lot of that this offseason, a lot. And again, it goes counter to what was here for him through those first couple of years when I was beating a drum for so very long about, hey, he's a good quarterback. He's playing really well. This guy's actually at times carrying us through on this, and you couldn't get anywhere with that. You couldn't get an inch forward with that in the discussion, especially on national perspective terms. Hell, it was hard enough just locally to get that across to the fan base through the first 2 years with Russell leaving.
Yeah, I guess I don't read a lot of Raiders articles. I guess I haven't been exposing myself to that very much, but yeah, I'm sure it's out there. There. It's just, I personally haven't exposed myself to it. Like I said.
Oh, there we go. Beyond Balance, thank you for the $10 donation. Beyond Balance, can't wait. I'm going to the game tomorrow, my daughter's first game. Thanks for the show, boys. It's our pleasure on that side of it, and congrats to your daughter's first game. It's probably hopefully going to be a hell of an experience for her, and hopefully the fans turn up. Feels like these preseason games, you get a lot of the tickets are a little cheaper, so you get a little more of the livelier fans in there, not as much of the wine and cheese crowd. Brendan.
Yeah, it's it seems like a little bit of a better. Oh, we'll see what the crowd's like this year, though. I think this might be the year where we start getting back on a little more of a positive path.
God, I hope so. I hope so, man. It was drifting last year. You know what I mean? It was drifting, especially in first place. That Bills game, you're in first place. Everybody's like, well, they need to have something they're playing for, and then I'll show up. It's like, well, in first place, we're playing a Bills team. Like, show up.
We won 4 straight going into the Green Bay game.
Yeah, another one. You're going, come on, guys. Let's lock this in. This is what we do.
Well, there was that thing that they implemented, I think, earlier this year, where like if you're a season ticket holder, remember they sent that email out where they're going to implement that rule that if you give away too many tickets, or what was it?
Yeah, if you sell too many tickets, 3 or 4 tickets, something like that over the course of the year, you can have your season ticket revoked. It's a step in the right direction. I'd like to see them go harder with it, because to me, if you have a waiting list like they've got, Brendan, then that's to me something that should drive you to be a lot more hardcore on people and selling those tickets. Like, we want these tickets to go to people who are going to show up in the game that are Seahawks fans, not that are going to resell the tickets. Don't buy the season tickets if you have to resell the tickets. That's not the point of this. That's not the spirit of this. And they're taking steps there, Brendan, they are, but we'll see if it has a measurable impact versus them starting to take a little bit more of a hard line stance on this stuff.
Yeah, it's gotten to the point where it's affecting the product. So you're obligated to do something.
Yeah, agreed. 100% agreed. It's become more than just a kind of a tacit issue. It's become something that's growing bigger and bigger as a problem here. But Beyond Balance, thank you for the $10 donation, and have yourself a great night there at the game tomorrow. I hope it is awesome. Awesome. Thrill House says, if Torrey Horton balls out, does Sam Darnold have the best wide receiver room in the NFL?
We got to slam the brakes. We got to slam the brakes hard on this one. All right, guys. There are some really special receiver rooms out there in this league right now.
There are. Let's do a couple that are okay. Let's put this in perspective, Brendan. I don't disagree with you on that, by the way. Let's flesh this one out. If Torrey Horton goes out there and gives you 800 yards receiving this year on top of what you have in this wide receiver room, who are the couple of the receiver rooms we look at that are better? Obviously, the Eagles. I guess a little bit with
Eagles. Yeah, Eagles, Vikings.
That'd be fair.
Bengals.
Yep.
Honestly, with Pickens, I think the Cowboys.
Yeah, they got the 2 there, but they don't have as much the depth you have. But that's you can talk me into that.
Let me see here. What else do we have? No, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that. I'd go with, for the moment, the Commanders until they trade Terry.
Who do they got besides Terry McLaurin, really?
Oh, shoot. What's his name?
De'Ami Brown? You're not going to give De'Ami Brown the bump, are you?
Is he really? No. Oh, wait a minute. No. Okay. I thought they had a different setup here. Yeah, never mind. I thought Debo was their number 3. He's currently their 2. Never mind. Okay. Yeah. Detroit, I'd say. Jameson Williams, Amon-Ra. I think that's pretty tough to
Tim
beat.
Patrick's not bad. I mean, I don't know though. I'll tell you this, if you have me picking between those 3 or the 3 we'd have on that, I'd probably go with our 3 over that.
Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
Tampa Bay stacked. What else is there? Who do the Jets have behind Garrett Wilson?
The Malachi Corley guy they drafted last year. Not a
really?
lot.
Okay.
Remember,
Josh
Devontae
Reynolds.
Adams was their number 2.
Yeah. Honestly, okay, that Rams with Puka and Devontae Adams, that's not bad either.
It's not bad. So I guess it's thrill house. If Horton Ball's out, you have a chance to push yourself probably in the top 7-ish range, wide receiver room, which is incredible considering where people thought it would be such a weakness walking in to the season. That'd be still a group that would be just awesome to have if they can play that well. It makes a difference. It does. But yeah, you still probably have a couple receiving rooms that would still be over the top. I would agree with Brendan on that.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, Houston's basically had to blow up their receiver room, although I think they've done a pretty decent job at it. I'm looking at it. Yeah, Nico Collins, Christian Kirk, Jaden Higgins. I like the potential there. It's probably not better than us if Horton does that.
Especially with Dell out for a good part of the year with that injury.
Yeah. I feel like Dell's not going to play football again. I have this feeling. He's going to realize it's not for him.
He's a light guy, man. That hard to do it at that weight.
Yeah. I was about to say the Giants, but Jalen Hyatt did something stupid again today at camp. I can't remember exactly what it was. So that's actually not very good anymore, is it? They got Neighbors and then like Darius Slayton.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not as far behind as I thought.
We're dancing. I mean, we're in the discussion if Horton Ball's out. It takes that, but you're around there, especially if you get a little bit of Arroyo out there as an outside receiver at times, and he's providing something too in addition to it. So you might be able to kind of cobble together a real top 7-ish room. That's not bad.
I like Atlanta's too. Drake London, Darnell Mooney, Ray McLeod. I'm a fan of that setup.
Yeah, they're not bad. They've got some interesting options there. Maybe Pitts gives them something too at some point here.
Pitts is basically a receiver, so depends on your perspective. Then again, so is Elijah Arroyo, kind of.
Exactly. And it might end up balancing out on that. Yeah, potential. There's potential here. HHG, thank you for the $2 donation. So Speak for Yourself is worse than Colin Cowherd.
Who's on Speak for Yourself? Is that Acho?
He has been on there. You know, they tend to rotate some guys through there a good amount. To be honest with you, though, to HHG's point, I don't watch it. I think it's all just extends out of that ESPN have 2 people just shouted at each other thing.
Yeah.
And that's the model everybody goes off of, or it's just hot take city. And it's, again, just what can we say that's the most salacious thing that'll get eyeballs watching us? Which again, it's just, I think modern audiences are more about stuff that's real and actually has some meat to it. And, you know, the discussion doesn't have to be that. It feels like that was kind of a moment in time, doesn't it, Brendan, that the way the sports discussion would go like that, and that we're kind of moving away from that.
Yeah. I mean, it's I was listening to a podcast recently. They were talking about Stephen A. Smith, and you don't watch him to understand sports better. You watch him because he's really annoying, and you hope that he's wrong about the stuff that he says. And it was actually a poker podcast because they were talking about a poker player who has become very notorious recently because everybody hates him and everybody just wants to see him lose. So even though he is the most insufferable piece of crap on the planet, when he's on TV, the ratings go way up because everyone wants to see him lose. So they're like, is this good for the game to have this piece of garbage on our TV? I mean, the ratings go up, but is it good? It's the same thing with somebody like Stephen A. Smith. Yeah, the ratings are up when he's on TV, but is this good for the product? Probably not.
Well, and it's the eyes you turn on, you have a lot of other eyes that are turned away, and that you're kind of getting caught up on those ones you're bringing in, but you're losing out on maybe the bigger audience you could pull in if you had something more substantive in what you're bringing to play. But that seems to be the part that seems to be really missing whenever I turn these things on, and I've got the point of almost don't consume any of it. Or if I'm watching anything, it's got to be somebody that's bringing something that's going to have much more tangibleness to it than just shouting at each other or just having some crazy weird hot take that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and somebody in the chat asked if I was talking about Phil Ivey as the poker player. No, absolutely not. It's Will Kassouf. And look that guy up if you want to know what I'm talking about. He is the worst person on the planet. Will Kassouf. Look him up. Worst person ever.
There's been a couple of poker players that have been kind of, pieces of stuff a little bit in what they brought on that. That's for sure. Kings Will Dream. Thank you for the $5 donation. Kings Will Dream over on Brendan's side. I just wanted to say, Brendan, I appreciate the video he made on Gino and the awful hate he got from some fans here.
Yeah, I did make that video right after the first preseason game because, again, I wasn't sure what was going to happen in that game. I think I knew what was going to happen with Pete, but I wasn't sure what was going to happen with Gino. And I think for the most part, things actually went pretty well. Gino spoke very positively coming out of that game. I think he went to, what's the name of the hospital in that area? To visit some of the kids. Is it St. Mary's?
Virginia Mason something medical center. I forget.
Yeah, I can't remember the name, but he went there. He talked about his experience there. And I definitely got the sense that things could have gone poorly, but they didn't. They didn't. For the most part, it went well. And it kind of reminds you that the internet isn't real life. Like you get a couple vocal people in the comments of your YouTube video and you feel like everybody thinks this way. And then you realize that that's not real life. That's what people just are putting out there as a vocal minority.
It is. I think that the game gave you a good view of the Gino outlook from sometimes the Seahawks fans that were here, where overall it was positive. But then the people that were like that sign that was posted up for the guy right there as Gino's walking in were so loud and so over the top in their outlook on Gino from day one and when he was put into the starting lineup. And it made no sense where their rancor came from. I just could never understand it as much. I understand people get their view sort of shifted by a player and how they first walk in. If they fall on their face, that's going to just hold on that player throughout time and that you can't get out of that until you get out of that. But people really seem to come out of it with you just having this thing where it's almost like a sort of hate to Gino initially in this in the city in a lot of ways. And part of it was Russell leaving and him being a legend, everybody loving Russell so much. And any quarterback that was going to take over was going to be kind of the bad guy a little bit. But he deserved us to give him a warm reception. The guy was a good soldier at a tough time for this organization. He was in a no-win situation taking over from Russell. And yet he came in and he really excelled and he performed well and took the most of that opportunity and ran with it. You got to laud the guy and give him a lot of credit for doing so.
Yeah. And I've had to, I've had to work very hard to stand up for him over the last 3 years, I feel like. And there might be part of me that's kind of happy it's over.
Yeah.
Because it was a lot of effort. It really was. It was.
Yeah. It gets repetitive, man, too. You do it over and over again every time you go live or you have this, it just keeps coming up, some of these points that from the people that have that bone to pick with a guy.
Yeah. And then really, what did he do? He comes in here for 3 years. He's your starter for 3 years. He makes the Pro Bowl twice, wins comeback player of the year. He makes very little money over that 3-year span, by the way. We paid him very little money. There are teams out there that have quarterbacks playing at a similar level and they pay him that much money in 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, more. Yeah. Over the 3 years, I think his total cap hit was like $40 million, 42, something like that.
He was 18th for 2 of the years in what he was actually making on the books as far as versus other quarterbacks in the sport.
We stick him with a terrible defense for most of the time that he's here. It only really got good that last half of season that he was here. We stick him with a terrible offensive line for basically the whole time, except for the first half of the first year. Don't really have much of a running game here. And it just it did bother me the way he got treated. It didn't make any sense. Like the last quarterback who most of these people loved. Russell Wilson had, at most times during his career in Seattle, unanimous approval rating from Seahawks fans. He won one playoff game in a year where he didn't have a top 3 defense backing him up. And we totally got behind that guy. And then this guy comes in here and he's dragging us to whatever little relevancy we have during that period of time. And I don't know. It never made sense to me.
Didn't me either. This is the kind of player that you'd think team or fans would be rooting for, that has had to really pull themselves up by their bootstraps to recover their career like he did. Should have been, I thought much more lauded, but it'll be kind of one of those all-time, I suppose, mysteries when it comes to, and again, I think the Russell factor was a big pusher here. Just, he was so revered, so loved. Anybody that came in was going to be the bad guy. You're not my dad. You're not my real dad. Yeah. You're not my real dad, Gino.
Yeah, maybe it's that. I just hope the next time this team gets a good quarterback in here, people understand what they have. Because I think other teams out there that have a quarterback of that caliber, they're not trying to run that guy out of here. They're cherishing that guy. They love having that guy. And the fact that Gino Smith was a great story. Like, he is one of the best stories in football over the last few years, I think. This guy crashed out as hard as you can crash out in New York. His career was immediately over. He spent 7 years backing up future Hall of Famer quarterbacks. No chance of playing. He was absolutely career over. And then he, by a fluke, gets an opportunity to play, and he makes the Pro Bowl in back-to-back years. Like that you almost never see anything like that.
You don't. It's rare. And football doesn't give you those guys very many times to get that second opportunity to do it. And he got it and he ran with it. And again, just that should be something just people are praising right and left, but just kind of an odd one there. Dylan Sosa, thank you for the $2 donation. Says, can't wait for Jesse to wear our hat after week 1. I don't know if I told you about this, Brendan. I got a bet with Jesse over at the NFC West Roundtable. Our Hawks win, he's got to wear a Seahawks hat on the next roundtable. If the Niners win week 1, I've got to wear a Niner hat.
I remember that. I think you mentioned that a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
The classic.
I got to get that hat put together in my shop, by the way, Dylan. You reminded me on that because I'm doing the custom. I'm getting the logo. I'm getting the number 1 fan. I'm going to get 12 for life over here on the side for him. So it's going to be very, very ostentatious and just over the top, Make most painful as I can make it for him, Brendan.
Yeah. Well, what happens to the hat that doesn't get used? Because one of the hats is not going to get used. Like,
you buy it after the game. So I'm not saying that he'll get after the game. You got to get for the next NFC West roundtable. So, but I get to pick the hat. He's got to do it for my store. So I'm controlling that aspect of it. But thank you for reminding me of that, Dylan, because I got to get that put together like tonight or tomorrow and have that set, because we're winning that damn game, Brendan. We're winning that week 1 matchup.
Yeah. If we, with all the things the Niners are going through, we should. I'll put it to you that way.
100%. And we're catching them at kind of the right time, theoretically, by the looks of things, at least right now. Thank you, though, for that. Appreciate you for the $2 donation on Brendan's side as well. Gavin Monroe, thank you for that. This is any update on Riley Mills? Will he fit into the rotation?
I don't think so. I don't know where the snaps come from. Like, you've got Big Cat and you've got Murphy, and both those guys, they're not just players. We know Big Cat's good. Murphy should be good. You want those guys on the field as much as you can. I don't think there's anything left for Mills, especially if Jaron Reed plays a little bit at 3 tech, which he might, and maybe even Mike Morris. I'm not even really thinking about Mills being on the team this year. I think he's a red shirt.
I think he's a red shirt too. With these injuries that they can come back after a theoretical year. Like you said, it was a late injury when he had it. So it's not even a year you're having him come back from when he sustained it. They can come back and technically healthy, but you have the small tissue injuries that come up. They aren't at 100%. Their legs aren't really under them. They'll tell you a year later after that year, it kind of took me the 2 years to really get back up to where I feel fully back to myself on this side of it. I think the other part of this too is this is a guy that had to gain a lot of weight, Gavin, through his college career. Came in like 255, got up to 295. I think some of what happened with that ACL is he was putting on too much weight too fast, and that his body just wasn't ready for it. And so you probably want him to get better at being able to sustain that weight too, from just a balance standpoint. If you're going to ask him to play like 3 tech weight at 300 pounds, the only possibility to me of him getting in here is that he has some crazy recovery, and that the team actually would look to, I think, try to be using him as a power edge a little bit, because he has some defensive end background to him. So maybe that'd be the only way I could see him to where, look, we have a needed edge. Jen is not coming back. We don't make a trade. Don't bring a Clowney in. Ivy's fine, but we really like this guy. Maybe he finds a fit to that. But like Brendan said, I just don't think there's any snaps for him at the 3 tech, even if he is healthy. And what is going to be his best position long term? He is a 3 tech. That's where he needs to be long term. So I just give it the season, on this one. I think, Kevin, you just let him rest up, let him get 100% healthy, let him get in the weight room, let him just work on his body. And then he comes back next year and you've got another guy that really gives you a problem then at that point, Brendan, because Jaron's still got 2 years left on his deal at that point. Leonard's still here. Byron's still here. He only got so many 3 tech snaps. Then you're in a little bit of a stuck situation.
Yeah. Something might need to happen at that point. Like Jaron Reed needs to play nose full time, something like that.
That'll definitely have to be how it goes at that point. But even then, I think you're still stuck because then you still have Byron and Leonard eating up all the snaps at the 3 tech at that point. So it's like, how much is Riley going to be able to get there, 10 snaps a game from 3 tech? At that point, it's a good problem to have. Something to deal with next year, not an issue.
Yeah, we'll figure it out later.
Right now. Beyond Balance, thank you for the $5 donation. Beyond Balance says, you guys need to check out the tape on Jared Ivey. He was unblockable. Sneaky 53 possibility.
Oh yeah, I definitely noticed on a rewatch of that game, and a lot of people have noted that he looked really good. So again, this is a guy who was going to get drafted and then he tested badly. So there's something there.
Yeah, there's something there, and it's a guy Beyond Balance for us that we do our big scouting look at. We look at around 300 players every year. He was one of the guys we looked at. I had a 4th round grade. Brendan had around a 4th round grade on him. It's the testing that knocked him, but the tape was really good with him. And again, he's out there at SEC competition that he's going up against. So it's not some small school kind of guy coming out here. This guy had to go up against really the top-notch competition, and he was able to do a lot of what he did this last weekend out there at Ole Miss when he was doing so. So it's a guy who has been on our radar for a bit. He had a hell of a game, as strong of a game as any defensive player for you in last week's contest against the Raiders. He's got a potential pathway to making this roster because he has a skill set that you do need. You need the power edge. And you have guys in this roster that you don't know if they're going to be able to supply that as much this year. Chenna, injury situation. Garrett Hall, it's been a bit inconsistent in being able to do that up until this point in his career. So there's a potential pathway for him to get this going Beyond Balance, for him to make this a possibility, as you say. Agreed.
Yeah, I mean, if we don't go out and get somebody and we've got a limited amount of time to do that, it's going to be him. I don't think it's going to be Tyrese Knight, who didn't look, or no, I'm sorry, Tyrese Smith.
Tyreek.
Yeah, Tyreek Smith.
You were almost
who did
there.
actually play a decent game against the Raiders. I don't think it's going to be him though.
I don't either. And I'd agree. I thought he played pretty strong as well. Good first step quickness. He really gets out of his stance fast, but he doesn't have that power edge side that Jared can supply as a bigger edge there. And again, back to maybe a role in this team that's going to be a necessary one when we get to week 1. And, maybe not for the whole year. Maybe Uchenna can come back and by week 5, 6, but you just say, hey, for the first 4 or 5 weeks, we'll have Ivy out there for 20 snaps a game on early rundowns, have him set that power edge opposite DeMarcus Lawrence, and then we'll protect a little bit of Hall and Mafia on the other side of that to keep them fresh for pass rush.
Right. That's best way to go about it.
But thank you, Beyond Balance. Appreciate it. Double dip dono from you today as well. Thank you for that support. Really kind of you guys. Ben with another $2 donation himself. Appreciate you too for that on the double dip, brother. Says Gino kept our head above water. Haters don't know ball.
Did you run out of characters at the end here, so you crammed it all together? I mean, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I like that. They made it all one word, and I get it. That word works actually, Ben.
Yeah. And it was not easy to keep that head above water. It was very, very hard. Like, I think people don't understand the degree of difficulty in quarterbacking this team over the last 3 years collectively. Like, look what happened to Sam Howell when he went out there. Like, Sam Howell might be bad, but he's not that bad. He's not worst QB in NFL history bad, but he looks like it.
Yeah. To your point, if you have a quarterback, you have like 3 kind of or 4 like main factors that are either working in your favor or working against you. Good defense, solid running game, good pass protection, smart offensive coordinator. I think in Gino's account over a 3-year period, you could say all 4 of those were at the very best, in the greatest way you'd speak about them, in a state of flux. In the worst of ways you'd speak about them, you'd say that those were all in a state of disrepair throughout his time. And yet he was able, as you say, keeping the head above water. I think somebody said this as well. I'd love to hear if you agree with this, that they said, if your team's bad, Gino Smith's maybe the quarterback you want. But if your team's good and you got the good supporting cast around a guy, that a guy like a Sam Darnold's more of a guy you want when you're looking at the two of them and what they supply?
I feel like to know that we need to see Gino with a good team or, a good situation. And he might have that in the Raiders, at least offensively.
Mm,
I'm interested to see what happens there. But
yeah,
I don't know what Gino would look like with a good team around him, because other
he's never
than
had that.
maybe a couple weeks at the start of 2022, he hasn't had it.
Yeah.
So it's hard to know, but the Darnold angle is interesting. The Darnold
Yeah.
angle is compelling because he did have a pretty good situation in Minnesota last year. And I mean, we know what happened. It was pretty
Maximize
good.
the hell out of it, right? Maximize the hell out of it. I mean, I'm certainly in that camp that would tell you if Darnold's in a bad situation with some stuff around him like Gino had dealt with, he wouldn't have dealt with it as well. I would never say that he would have brought the production Gino did. But that's back to that other side. Well, you do give him stuff that's working in his favor. He's such a rhythm quarterback. He's such a you give me my structure, I can work within that structure well, kind of QBB and Sam, that I was, somebody else said it. It just kind of stuck in my brain a little bit the other day when I heard it. I was like, I think I might also kind of believe that a little bit.
Yeah, I definitely believe it on the Darnold's. I could see it on the Darnold side. Gino, I'm not sure. It's hard to know.
Well,
It's a very odd thing to say, though, right? Like it's almost like a basketball thing. It's something you hear in basketball where you have a player like Sharif Abdul-Rahim who's really good when he's on a bad team and he gets to take all the shots.
yeah,
But when you put him on a good team, he can't work. Like I don't know. You don't usually hear it for football, I feel like.
You don't. And back to your point that we haven't seen Gino with a good team, so it is a little bit of an in the dark kind of assessment of it when you haven't ever actually seen him with that supporting cast. It's and so to be fair to Gino on that, give him something good to work with, and he even looks better, potentially on that. But just a theory on that. A Joss, thank you for the $10 donation. You guys are kind as ever. We're rolling midseason form here, dono after dono. You guys are just awesome. Thank you for all of that support. You as well, Joss. Letting Gino hit his incentives in the week 18 was what forced him out. That $6 million counted against the 2024 and then the 25 cap, likely to be earned.
So this is because they were escalators, right? They weren't incentives.
Right.
So it counted against the cap last year because he hit the bonuses, and then they were going to be assumed to be hit because he hit them. Okay, I think that makes sense, right? I think that makes sense.
It does make sense, Josh. I see what you're saying on that. I think the part that to consider with this, though, too, is that Gino was going to want a new contract. Mm-hmm. So the escalator stuff would have been in there, but that you probably would have torn up the contract and just made something new on the new deal that you wouldn't have built on the old contract. Maybe you would have just extended it. But and even then, if you're extending it, that those numbers still then do factor the negotiations part to your point, Joss, on that. But I do think that the part that when you tear up the contract, Gino's not coming back to play on that final year of that deal. He wanted an extension last year before training camp. That was, to me, what made it the place where I think in a lot of ways Seattle kind of pushed as much of this more than I know the narrative out there is this, Gino pushed on this, but I think it really came down to Seattle just not wanting to pay up to what Gino wanted to be paid to remain, and that they wanted to go with the guy that they thought was going to be less inexpensive, younger, similar level of play. I think there was a little bit of that was built into it, but I get what you're saying with this.
Yeah. And as somebody that obviously follows football pretty closely, because I have to, I've really moved away from thinking about the little finer points of these contracts. Either I want the player or I don't. Maybe with like mid-level players or role players, yeah, it makes sense to quibble over a few $1 million here and there. But when it comes to these upper level players, I'm starting to think these teams are just like, either I want the player or I don't, and I'll make it work one way or the other. And I'm not going to worry too hard about, I spent $2 million more than I wanted to. Like there are ways to make up for that. You draft well. Those players don't make anything. Just draft well, you'll make up for it. So I don't know how Schneider looks at this stuff. Maybe he looks at this stuff differently, but I feel like for the most part, we talked about this last week, the cap goes up by $25 million every year. Don't worry about contracts. With the exception of Deshaun Watson or Russell Wilson or Christian Wilkins, these contracts, you're really almost never going to regret them for players that are good. You're just not.
Agreed. And I think that the two other parts contractually wise that's helped this process move to where it's at now is option bonus wise. It's no longer just about the bonus that you signed to the front end of the contract, but now you can structure option bonuses within it down year 2, 3, 4 in alignment to better massage the numbers. And then, of course, the void years too on top of it. So I agree with you. I think if you want to get a deal done, you get a deal done. That's part of why I said with Gino that this didn't come down to just, well, I want to go play with coach. If you had made him the right offer, if you wanted to sign up for the experience and pay him the prime pump prices that he was going to want, he remains. But you made the determination as a team that you didn't want to go up to that high of a price. You didn't want to pay for that. You could better spend that money elsewhere. I do feel like that's the way that played through.
Right.
Joss, thank you for that donation. And Beyond Balance coming in with another dono. You're awesome, brother. Thank you for that $10 donation. Says, don't want to overstep, but would be awesome if Christopher Walken could get my daughter pumped for her first Hawks game. She goes by Biddle. Well, I'm going to tell you now, Biddle, get hyped. You're sitting home. You don't know what you're doing. You go, when's the game, Dad? When we playing? Soon, daughter. You're preparing yourself soul-wise for what's going to go down. It's Friday. We're going to go take Super Bowl team every year. They go, why? Officials. That's my reasoning. Not this year, though. You're going to send them to hell in a handbag. Lumen Field, week 2 preseason. How? We're that good. We kill teams in the preseason. That's how good we're going to be this year. Yeah. So go, daughter, Biddle, with your daddy. Enjoy the win and the ultimate distraction of Kelsey and Mahomes forever. It's not a great walking today. I'm doing my best to down balance. To get 2 hours in, it's a little bit, the voice gets a little shoddy, but Walken's hyped. Your daughter's going to love the game. It's a good game. Going to win big all around. But thank you, Beyond Balance. Is it holding up okay today, man? Is the Walken holding up?
No, I think it was good. It actually reminds me though. So they're making Dune Part 3 next year, right? It comes out next year.
Gazina Al-Gaib. Mm-hmm. What do you know about him, Duke?
Well, that's the thing. I was looking at it. Walken's not in the casting list. I guess the Emperor doesn't appear in Part 3, and I was like, oh man, that's disappointing because he did so little in Part 2. I was like, oh, maybe we can get a little more of him in Part 3, but no.
I know they barely did have the Emperor on it, and he's such a big factor in the books, and even in the other movie, in the Cronenberg one back in the 70s, felt like he kind of factored a bit more in. He just kind of was standing around a bit, got the one moment where he confronts, what do you know about this man in the South? It's like, it was good, but yeah, not enough Walken, man. You gotta get more Walken. If you're getting Walken in your movie, utilize this guy, utilize him.
Yeah, it was hard though, because it's such a serious movie, but every time he's on screen, you just want to start laughing because he's become such a caricature of himself in recent years.
Oh, he is. Yeah.
You look at him and immediately you're thinking, oh, this is a funny scene. This is a comedic scene, and it's not. And I've had that problem when I saw the movie in theaters.
I have the issue too with it. It's a little bit like what happened with Pacino. Like, early Pacino worked so great, and then Pacino, as he gets into the 90s, starts getting more bombastic and, oh my God, what are you gonna do? How are you gonna get him all the way up on his head? It's a lot of that. Every performance and it just becomes more amped, more. And then you, like you say, you get to a bit of a caricature point of it, and you're like, okay, we're kind of off the reservation here, Al. Like, let's dial it back down. Quite a far bit, like earlier. I'm just a godfather, and that's what I'm gonna do. And it starts from that spot, it gets up to there, Oh, that's hooah.
Yeah. I love The Irishman though. I thought that worked really well, so I didn't have a problem with it there.
I just the de-aging and like you got De Niro trying to kick a guy's butt at one point. He can barely.
Yeah, that was the one scene where it was like, oof.
Yeah, that was where he's like, but he's like walking along in clumps, just it's like, okay, it would just go with the younger actors on this one, but I think that would have worked better if they'd done the younger. But he wasn't bad in that. Yeah, it fit, especially because that was kind of Hoppa's personality too. It fit because Hoppa was so like that too,
Right, absolutely. Kind of looks like him too. I didn't have a big problem with how they did look a little bit different. Like when they did the Kurt Warner movie a few years ago, if you remember, they got Zachary Levi to play Kurt Warner, and I know what Kurt Warner looks like, and that bugs the crap out of me that he doesn't look anything like Kurt Warner. Didn't bug me with Jimmy Hoffa.
No, me neither. I was okay with that part of it. That part fit for me. It was, it was a good movie. It wasn't a bad movie by any measure on it. It was just, sometimes it was jarring with the whole trying to make these guys who are obviously in their like mid 70s looking, way much younger, just didn't quite hit.
Mm-hmm.
Cosro Solari, thank you for the $2 donation. Did you guys see the Jerry Jones soap opera stuff? I've been monitoring it. Has there been more soap opera, even more in the last day or two? It's constant.
Well,
it feels like.
I think what this is referring to, he came out and admitted that he's doing this stuff to get people's attention. He was like, when you're creating controversy, you are getting people to pay attention to you, and that's a good thing. It was almost like he was admitting, yeah, of course I'm going to pay Micah Parsons. I'm just doing this to get people's attention. And I mean, okay, that's one thing, but is Micah Parsons in on it, or is he just getting dragged around right now while you're getting people's attention? What about the fans that are having to kind of hold their breath a little bit right now? Like, it's not as cut and dry as you're making it.
Yeah, I don't get the upside to Jerry doing this. I cannot be I just don't see where there's the bottom line that this equates out to a benefit for the Cowboys. It doesn't help the locker room. I don't think that it's making you a single dollar extra that the people are talking about this stuff in the news. It doesn't get anybody hyped about the Cowboys team for the upcoming season. It just feels like nothing but a loss at every turn for Jerry on this, even if he gets the deal done at this point. And certainly a loss for your 2025 season Cowboys that you're hoping this year you can do a little bit of something. You're about to pay, you're paying the highest price for a quarterback in the league. You're spending as much money on a wide receiver as anybody in the league. You're about to make a defender the most highest paid defender in the sport, all so that you can be a third place team. I don't get what he's doing. It seems like senility stuff. It seems like sundowner kind of stuff to me a little bit in his approach. I just don't think anybody can tell him nothing in that organization, and haven't been able to for a long period of time. And it's a joke. It's a circus and it's a joke, and the Cowboys are never going to be anything while Jerry Jones is owning that franchise, much like I thought the same thing with Mark Davis until he brought on Brady. It's kind of the same thing. You're going to be a joke. You're never going to get your organization right. It's too hard to win anyway if you're doing everything right, everything intelligently. When you're doing open, blatant stuff stupidly, you've deep sixed your chances, and right from the start.
I mean, the real L was not paying Micah Parsons last year, because last year was his fourth year. If you had paid him after the third year, it'd be going down a lot easier.
Same thing with Dak. You had the same issue with Dak that you ran down to. You ended up paying way too much, and now you're over the barrel on it because you don't do void years. You don't do option bonus kind of year stuff. You're trying to always stay cap to cap year by year. And so Jerry gets to eat this one, but he deserves whatever he gets in this because he's made it happen. He could have just shut his mouth and gotten this thing figured out, but instead he's got to think he's falsely inflating stuff that I don't think is getting all that inflated as far as the eyeballs on their product. Hawks Coots, thank you for the $7 donation and your double dip donation today as well. I really appreciate you for that. Says, what's the ceiling of this team and what's the floor? Thanks, guys. Great show. You answer that real quick. 1 second here.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think clearly the ceiling is 17-0 and the floor is 0-17. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What I said was the ceiling is 17-0 and the floor is 0-17. I think we have to start there, right? That's common sense.
Yes, I guess so. Theoretically there.
With this schedule, I don't want to get over my skis here, but with this schedule, I really do feel like 13 wins is doable. I guess the floor is hard because you could have a bunch of injuries and then you're just DOA. I guess if you're saying a normal amount of injuries, like we get 17 games of Darnold at least, et cetera, I guess the worst would be, I don't think we win fewer than 7 games, maybe even 8.
Yeah, I think that's probably about where I'm at with it. I'm torn a little bit on this on the 7 to 8 win spot as well, as far as the floor goes, where there is a way that this could go wrong to you getting down to 7 wins. I think if it injuries did hit right, you don't get in development in the right spots, the offensive line becomes a joke again. you could definitely slide down there. But I do find myself as well with Brendan on the same place. And maybe it's good me and both Brendan see the same thing on this Hawks Coots to the both the floor and the ceiling are real here, where it's okay, 7 wins, but then 13 wins is definitely where I do see a ceiling here where things work out great and you can get to that spot on the other side of this too as well. So it's a pretty wide variance. I've said it's probably the widest variance that you've seen from a Seahawks team in my prognostication of them in probably 5 or 6 years, where it's much more about, at least I kind of know where the floor is, but maybe got a limited ceiling. This ceiling's much higher. This floor is probably much lower. And where it's going to stand, I'm not quite sure at this point. I think if I had to bet, I'd say it's going to be more on the upper side. I still stand true on my 11-win outlook for this team in overall terms. But it does make it harder this year, Hawks Goose, because there is a bit of that variance at play.
Yeah, I just keep looking at it. And even with some of these games that we assumed were going to be a little bit harder, like there are terrible vibes coming out of the Steelers organization right now. Don't you agree?
Oh, yeah. I think it's not been necessarily great returns with Rodgers coming in here, and him and DK don't seem to have this instantaneous chemistry where they're just like, it's like we've been brothers our whole lives. We complete each other's sentences. It's
and have you seen Rodgers doing like the pocket gamut where he's simulated climbing around in the pocket, and he's just like, I don't even know how to put it. He looks like he's got cinder blocks taped to his feet.
You start getting older like this, man, and you're going to lose this stuff. And you have an injury like the Achilles, where so many people say you never come back fully from that. You combo those up, but you never come back fully from it. You're getting in your 40s. You never come back fully from this. You're getting into your 40s. This is the combination of what can slow a guy down. And he was a decently mobile guy in his younger age. He could improvise and move around a bit, but he wasn't a Lamar. He wasn't a Jalen Hurts. He wasn't a guy that was the forefront of his game. And so, yeah, he's hit that spot where, you remember Peyton at the end, he couldn't move either. Drew Brees at the end Drew had some mobility as a younger guy. He really couldn't move much at the end. Phillip Rivers was a sitting duck. Kirk Cousins has become a sitting duck. It's what you get in your 40s. It's hard to be playing the sport in your 40s. It's hard to be playing a professional sport when you're in that age of things. And even a guy like a LeBron in NBA, I think he does so because of the fact he's juiced to the nines and has been so for probably about 10 years. It's the only reason that he's been able to keep it so long. So it's just, That's why Father's Time is undefeated.
And the reason why I bring that up is because that Steelers game was a game I was kind of penciling in as a loss. It's early in the season. It's on the road, but the door is open. The door is open for that to be a game you win like 13-9 or something at this rate. You could win it by accident almost. It's going to be a low scoring game, I think.
I think it's a good possibility of it. And the fact Aaron kind of was waiting late in the process to sign with the Steelers and not there through all of OTAs. And, we know with him in the past when he's done this, like it happened, before with the Jets, where it's like you need those offseason reps. Like when we got Sam Darnold out in California meeting with the crew, when we got everybody showing up for OTAs, there is a benefit from that. You don't just get to be I'm a 40-year-old guy, I don't have to do that anymore thing. It doesn't work that way. And if you don't do that, there's a price to be paid on it, especially early when you're trying to develop that chemistry. So I agree. I think this has worked that way a lot of ways for the schedule, to your point on this. When you look at the schedule in general and you can go blow by blow through, you can look at a Titans team that has Cam Ward walking out there, but if he ain't good to go, they don't have a Will Levis to fall back on as a backup plan, as maybe a guy that could be viable for them in that way. I've looked at the schedule and there's a lot of that does, stand out when you kind of look at it on the surface of it, where not only the matchups look a little bit advantageous in certain ways, but it's been more to that realm here over the last couple of months through training camp from some of the way that things have played out.
Yeah, and even these tougher games, like I think Tampa's going to be good, but they did lose their offensive coordinator, who I think was great. Liam Cohen was an awesome play caller. I think that they'll be okay, but maybe not. And they may not have Tristan Wirfs in that game. He may be hurt now. In fact, I think they're kind of expecting him to miss about the first half of the year at this point. So that's a big loss. That's their best player right now.
It is indeed. And you've got Godwin coming back off of, I believe, a torn ACL from last year too, is in addition to that. And so that's another part of this. And yeah, I think even the tough matchup, there's some stuff to do where, we could kind of work around through that. We can work around through this. And so you're well set up this year, I think, to be able to go and accomplish that ceiling, Brendan. It's got the variance it does, but this is as we've said, one of the easier schedules the Seahawks have had here going back for years now. And it's only getting easier from when the schedule came out. It has not gotten harder in retrospect, like, oh, this team made this crazy trade for this guy, and that guy, this team made this crazy trade for this guy, and now that this is going to be so hard now. No, they've gotten almost weaker a little bit. Depends on the team, but bit by bit weaker.
Yeah, both lines on Houston, I think, look like garbage. The offensive line and that interior defensive line is terrible, I think. So they've got problems too. Minnesota, JJ McCarthy looks terrible so far. The Rams, they got Matt Stafford visiting the Lazarus pits. It's there's some stuff going on here where I do think a really, really good season is on the table.
I do too, man. I do too. Things are working out right. Maybe like eclipse. Everything's kind of sliding into the right just proximity at the right time for us this season.
Did you read about the trailer they had at the Rams camp that Stafford went into? It was like I can't remember what they call it, like a holistic air tank, or I don't know. It was like some weird thing out of it's like something that Batman,
chamber.
Yeah, it's like something Batman goes into when he's 70 years old, but he needs to go out for another mission.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We left a little gray. To look realistic. Yeah, I think it's not a great sign. My guy over there, Jake Ellen Mogan, who covers the Rams, is completely nonplussed by it. He says that everything's going to be fine with it, but I mean, we're getting through camp. He's not practicing epidermal shots. Backs are weird. Had back problems in the past. Another guy, a little bit like, with Aaron Rodgers, where, you're getting up there. You played a lot of football. Father Time's going to start hitting you. It already started hitting you last year. And you could feel with Stafford that, the arm was still there last year, but he's definitely losing some mobility. He's not moving around like he, once did in that. And again, like Rodgers had good mobility a little bit, not like upper level, but decent. And now you go from kind of decent to a little bit below average. And now you got to be all that much better as a passer. Now you got to be all that much better in your processing and moving in the pocket. And it's hard to have to play that much more perfect as you grow older in that way, even with the more increased intelligence and all that with playing.
Yeah, that's the underrated part of this too. Stafford was okay last year. He was okay. He got away with a lot of throws that should have been picked off. Mm-hmm. And in the second half of the year, the only really good game he played was in the wild card against Minnesota, I think. Like, I think if you went down like his game logs, everything else was shaky.
Definitely had some of that, like you said, the turnover-worthy plays, which we know year by year can correct itself, and you throw so many turnover-worthy plays that it clicks back in that next year. They had some injuries to the receiving core with Kupp and Puka out for a good amount of the year too as well. That didn't help, and the offensive line wasn't as settled, I think, as they hoped it was going to be with all the money that they spent on it the prior, couple of years on that. But we'll see where he is this year. We'll see if he can get back off this back, and that back, man, those things are hard to fix, Brendan, when they start going sideways. So no guarantee he's going to be able to bounce back on that. Ben, thank you for the $5 donation. I appreciate you for that. Ben, he says, I converted my girlfriend from a Raiders to a Seahawks fan. She's now enlightened. Now we breaking down Gino, Jamal A, and Pete to her Raiders family. Laughing out loud. Well, there we go. Well converted. Those Raider fans are hard to convert, Ben. I can attest to that. They are diehard. So you had to have made a great case at that to pull that one off. That's for sure.
My family on my dad's side grew up Raiders fans because everybody in this area before the Seahawks existed were Raiders fans because the Seahawks only had a team in 76. And my dad's side, my dad was born in 61, I think. And he has brothers that were born in the 50s. So they liked football, but Seattle didn't have a football team. So there was definitely a carryover from that. So Raiders to Seahawks, there's a pipeline, is what I'm saying.
That makes sense. It was the closest team. So, I mean, that totally makes sense. So I hope good things to the Raiders this year. Jamal looked pretty good in the game last week and playing linebacker. He seems to be fitting to that spot well. And I hope they can go out there and make some noise. And thought it was going to be uphill battle for them, but like Chargers are getting a little bit snake bitten with some of the stuff you're hearing from them in training camp a bit. So maybe that'll give them a little bit of an inroad, especially if Denver's not quite as good as everybody thinks they're going to be, which I just think Denver's a little bit overrated in how people are talking about them right now. I know the defense is really good, but
I haven't heard anything to follow up on this, but I remember reading something earlier today that Garrett Bowles got taken off the field.
That's not good.
Apparently, like it looked bad too. So if that is a thing, that's two of your franchise left tackles that are just done in that division already because Slater, he's already blown up.
True. Good point. Yeah. And I think Bowles has had a torn ACL before. So if it's the same leg, it's, it definitely could have happened. And that's a big blow for a guy like Nick's not having his left tackle because that offensive line makes a lot of that offense go. They don't have as many playmakers and guys on the outside and running backs that they can kind of lean on with that. So something to maybe there's a pathway the Raiders getting up into second place here with some of the injury situations out there, and Pete just shocks everybody in that first year. That'd be kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
Be very cool. But thank you, Ben. Appreciate it. And congrats on converting the girlfriend. keep her in line now. Keep her in Seattle. Don't let her drift. You know what I mean? Don't let her drift. Phoebe Moore Seahawks is going to finish us up nicely with all of these donations and support today. You guys are just amazing. Can't even catch up on all the donos. You guys are dropping so many. Thank you for that $2 donation. He says LeBron also spends millions on his body in the off season.
Well, steroids are expensive, right?
Yeah, I was just going to say
they don't give them away for free.
20% of that comes from HGH and steroids. And, with LeBron and, physical freak, and he's just this natural boon he's just such a natural boon of medical or of just genetics and da-da-da-da-da. And it's like, look, when a guy's this far into the outlier phase of it, playing this long in his career, still jumping through the gym at 40 years old, hand up at the top of the backboard, like you're being given some help. You just are. And with LeBron, the accusations has been there for so long and it's been such a key part. I just feel like we're going to find out at some point or another with LeBron and pretty concurrently that, he had some help, and he'll do something like Barry did at the time when Barry Bonds took it, where he's like, well, everybody's doing it. So, I mean, like, how bad is it if everybody's doing it? Then it's like, it's just standard. So it's like, you just have to do it standard. And it's like, nah, I don't buy that excuse. And that doesn't mean a whole hell of a lot to me. And then, absolutely, it should tarnish LeBron's legacy in retrospect if it does come out. I may be proven wrong on this, but I would be absolutely shocked if he's just been running off natural juice to make this happen.
Watch the foreheads, people. Just watch the foreheads. Yeah,
and the hairline. Yeah. That's the other thing, is that hair goes like a mother at that point too.
Tom Brady and Peyton Manning both kind of had the big forehead thing going on late in their careers.
Well, to your point, Peyton had some remember his wife was on HGH. Remember, it was getting shipped to his wife. That was the whole thing.
I think I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was kind of shipped. And, to your point with Tom, I wouldn't be surprised. I think they get tested like once at the start of the year, or they had some weird testing thing for a lot of years where it was very easy to cycle through what you need to cycle through and be off of it by that time. And you're right about Tom's chrome. That thing, that cranium got pretty massive over time. And that's an indicator. It is.
I mean, if you were the commissioner of the league, would you even really care if they were? Like, wouldn't you just let that happen? Because the incentive to have somebody like a Tom Brady playing at a good level at 44, 45, what that's doing for your sport. Like, wouldn't you just look the other way on that? Like, how do you not almost? Like, if your goal is to create the best product that will get people to watch and give you money, like, why wouldn't you look the other way?
I'd initially say no, you wouldn't. It would be good for it because it's a bad look in general. But to your point on this, when you have one of your special guys that then is able to elongate his career by 5-10 years, and what that means for the revenue of the sport and the eyeballs on the sport, you're right. The bottom line of that would drive that to make it probably worthwhile and to make the most sense to allow it to go through, especially allow it just for your stars alone to go through.
Right.
So it's probably a little bit of the dirty part of the business that's probably very true on that side of it, and probably can't be overlooked.
Mm-hmm.
Deep, dark secret.
Yeah. What can you say? There's nothing we can do about it, I guess.
Yeah. We don't control the testing. I'm not taking piss tests off these guys. I'm not holding that cup. Are you done? Are you done? Okay. Oh God. They're not paying me enough. Well, we'll wrap it up on that note here. Nice 2 hours on in here on the stream today. I really thank you guys for all of the donations. Like I said, couldn't even catch up through 2 hours. Just so many donations coming through. You guys have been this way with us, me and Brendan, on both of our channels for quite a bit of time. And it's really, really appreciated on both of our ends. That kind of support helps make our channels go and grow. If you guys can for me, if you're on Seahawks Brendan Nelson's side, hit that like button. Get subbed on up. It's free to sub up. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. Come on, helps out a bunch. Please do the same over here on my side as well. We are going to be going hot and heavy throughout the course of this year, looking at this Seahawks team every Thursday at 12 o'clock. Going to be back again, I think, next week. Is it a Saturday game next week, I want to say?
I think Saturday is right, but it's also an earlier game. It's going to be like a 1 o'clock. Let me check and make sure I'm right on that, which I think is probably a little bit better. I think the 7 o'clock start is a little bit of a killer.
I hate the 7 o'clock start. That's awful. God, this is a horrible time to start a game at 7.
Yeah, 1 p.m. Saturday. And then we get a week off and then the first week of the season.
That's right. So we will still be back at the normal time next week, Thursday, 12 o'clock Pacific Standard Time here. We'll be back at the B&B show. taking a look at that final preseason game and all of what we got to do to ramp up here to be ready for the opening start of the year, get some updates. Maybe we'll even have some signings to discuss. Maybe a Clowney comes down the line. Maybe there's a trade in John Schneider's back pocket here as you're probably approaching that spot, Brendan, to where if he's going to do something to try to add before the start of the year, probably happens in about the next week to make sure you can have a guy prepared for a couple weeks to be acclimated onto the roster to be ready to roll week one. So we may have a little bit of extra stuff to kind of talk about next week. Hopefully we'll see on that side of it. I thank you, Brendan, for doing this with me, man, and doing it throughout the year. Always a great time with you, being able to chop it up, talk Hawks, man.
Yeah, it was great to have you. It was great to be on your show, since I guess you were hosting this week, I guess I should say. But it's on both of our channels, so we're co-hosting. I hit 20,000 subscribers 2 days ago, actually. Finally got there.
Oh, congratulations. Wait, hold on, Brendan. Let me get a real one in here, man. Let me get the real applause in. I don't know if you can hear it, but I'm doing the applause on the soundboard right now.
Oh, I heard it. I definitely heard it.
Okay, cool. Well, it's kind of loud, yeah. Well, congratulations, Brendan. That's awesome. I can attest. You get in that 18, 19, and it's a little bit of that, grinding up point to get over that 20,000. So well earned on your part. And now on to 30,000, brother. Now into the big 3-0.
Yeah, I do. I keep waiting for it to plateau a little bit, but so far it's pretty consistent, honestly. And it's already gotten higher than I ever thought it was going to be. So at this point, I don't know. I don't know where it goes. I don't know where the stopping point is. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it doesn't.
No, sir. No, sir. Hopefully it just keeps compounding. That's what you want to see, man. Just keeps, more and more and more and more and up and up. And I think it will at that for you, Brendan. No doubt about that. Well, thank you, man. I appreciate you doing this with me. And I will see you in another week. Hopefully we get not a tie, but a Seahawks win and everybody's healthy and feeling good and feeling right. And we got just nothing but good vibes as we now motor our way here closer and closer to the regular season.
Yeah, I'm ready for it. So thanks for doing this with me. And hopefully we get that first win.
My pleasure, man. And hopefully we do it that. We will be back soon, but until next time, we shouldn't have to let you guys know. We shouldn't have to remind you, but you know what, Brendan? We're going to do it anyway because that's just what we do. Get ready for a real fine season here for your Seattle Seahawks. Get ready for them to surprise this national opinion, this lazy national opinion that exists out there. They don't know what they're talking about. They're not looking at us. They think we're in Southern Alaska. Let them overlook us. Let them keep us in that underdog phase. Let them look at us as that Cinderella-like team that will never put on the slipper. We're putting on that slipper, so you lock it in, people. And don't you ever forget. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.